my friends of the show. This is Macil Duncan, and today's a historic day. I've got a theme song for you. Kind of goes along with today. Because we're back on 96.9 FM.
Welcome back.
We appreciate those that have let us know you missed us being here on 96.9 FM, Chattanooga, Tennessee, local radio.
Place that you laughed about.
We are welcoming back, and it's nice to be back. The owner now has changed the name to Destiny Media. You'll hear more about that in the future. But pastor salute to Destiny Media here in Chattanooga, and for picking up the show along with USA Heartbeat Radio and all the other affiliates. I've told you we are now in 30 states plus, and lots of countries. It's cool. Appreciate all those that help. I just want to give a word of encouragement to my buddy Dave, who is the mastermind behind all this. Dave, these little words are for you. Don't stop believing. Because let me tell you, managing all the things that go on with radio stations, when you have multiple stations, you can't control everything, and there's hiccups from time to time. He had a couple today, but I just want to encourage him. Well, speaking of today, we've got something that happened, but it didn't happen. Let me play this, and then we'll explain. A deadline was given, and it was ignored.
University is ending negotiations with protesters, saying they've been unable to come to an agreement. The school is flatly rejecting demands to divest from Israel and asking protesters to disperse voluntarily. This as police are cracking down on the growing number of protests at colleges and universities across the country. ABC's Alex Brachet joins me now from Ohio State University with more. Alex, hundreds of people were arrested at pro-Palestinian protests over the weekend. Now more students are calling for their colleges to divest from Israeli military operations. Meanwhile, some Jewish students say that they're facing threats on campus. What's the latest on all of this?
Well, Diane, I want to get to that, but we have a little bit of breaking news, specifically from Columbia University, which is breaking news, specifically from Columbia University, which is another one of those universities where a lot of the student body has been asking for the college to divest from Israeli investments and also support for Israel. They've recently sent out a memo to students saying that if you do not identify yourself and leave that encampment on the university premises by 2 p.m., you will not be in good standing and will be suspended pending further investigation. And
So, there was a deadline, my friends, today at 2 p.m., and they were told to cease and desist or there would be consequences, basically. And Fox News just broke the story. They're not moving. Check it out.
Past the 2 o'clock hour, it's half an hour past the deadline Columbia set for students to leave that encampment. This is inside of Columbia University. Our camera is inside where the number of protesters has been growing. The number of tents going up has been growing. The protesters are defying quite clearly that university order to leave. Alexis McAdams is live on the ground inside Columbia for us. She's watching all of this. What can you tell us, Alexis?
Hey, Sandra. Well, we're 2:33, right, and counting here, and the protesters are still set up. I'm going to walk you with you this way here in New York City at Columbia University. This is that Gaza Solidarity encampment, right? We've been seeing it for days. The university said the students get out of here or get suspended. Well, they're still here, and they don't look like they're going anywhere.
So defiance is in the air. Now, the interesting thing is many of you guys are like me. You're watching this, and you're saying, I cannot believe these university presidents haven't done anything thus far. And now to finally try to have a little bit of a spine, these kids don't think you mean it. There was a 2 o'clock deadline, or else. Now, it's only 3 o'clock. It's 30 minutes after. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, if anything happens today. But there seems to be a growing, I guess if you want to call it, with the election around the corner, a frustration. And we'll talk about this a little bit because there was a time when people acted maybe swifter, but now we live in the feeling in the world of hurt feelings. We live in a woke culture, And people are just super duper sensitive now because they're so afraid, hey, lawsuits, being shamed and blamed through social media or what have you, people are concerned. So I don't know what you're thinking out there. I tell you the thoughts I have on this is simple. These kids have been given an opportunity to go to school, get an education. When I went to college, I did not agree with everything happened on my campus. As a matter of fact, I disagreed quite a bit. Being a very conservative Christian, when I went to a secular college here in the state of Tennessee, let me tell you, I had a lot of, but I went to school, I did my time, I went to my classes and I did what was required. I got my bachelor's and I actually double majored. Then I went and got my master's of divinity at a seminary, got my master's of divinity. Then went into to the ministry world officially full time, even though served on staff all the way through that. I'm amazed at what kids, I remember when I was in college and seminary, there were times they would have a rule or something. You're going, I don't agree with that. I can't imagine what it was like for us to all get together and have a sit-in and tell the president, hey, this is what we think you should do. And this is what's, to me, ironic of this generation. There was a group of kids that worked for Google that thought they were going to go sit in and tell the guy that runs Google, the CEO, hey, I'm going to tell you how to run the thing. Okay, number one, you're going to quit sending any funds to Israel. And they were demanding the $1.2 billion deal with Israel be stopped. So they stayed, they did some damage, and at the end of the day, legal was out there with them and said, by the way, do you remember when we hired you, you signed this little document, it's called our Policy Procedure Manual. You have violated many of the things, so you're fired. And these kids were all weeping and screaming, what about my freedom of speech? You don't get to tell your boss what to do. I believe the same kind of applies here on the college campuses. Sure, you have free speech. Yeah, you can have your rallies, but you don't want to have really free speech. What you guys want is everyone to hear you. Because when you start blocking Jewish kids and Jewish professors from coming on campus or proceeding forward to a class or to their parts of the campus, that's when you say, no, this is no longer free speech. This has become a bully pulpit and a bully situation. If you don't agree with us, we're going to use physical force to stop you from going where you want to go. That, my friend, is when you guys cross the line. And that's why I think they should call the police, arrest them all. Arrest them all. And they kind of did that this weekend. I don't know if you heard about this, but there were some arrests and one or two maybe shocking people among the arrests. But this was going on. Green Party President Jill Stein got arrested at Washington University. She thought she would gain some political savvy through this, and all she's done is pretty much embarrassed herself and probably lost that little 2% of the nation she had.
University students are suspended after Israel-Hamas anti-war protests spread to the St. Louis area over the past weekend. Washington University confirms its police force arrested 100 people. 502's Laura Simon is live from the school and has all of the details.
Blair, good morning to you. Good morning, everyone. The university confirming nearly 24 of those people arrested were students.
Now, hello, wait a minute. They just said they arrested over 100 people, but only 24 were students. How come over 100 people, let's say 24, what's that, 24? Let's be generous and say 25. They arrested 100 people, 75 weren't students. Are we to now find out or possibly do some real, some mental gymnastics here, or is it just common sense reasoning to realize these college campuses are being hijacked by some kind of outside force, possibly other countries, financing or possibly sending folks through the southern border? All these sleeper cell groups, the FBI has warned us now 6 times that we could have conflict on American soil. Is that the jelly bone reason some of these presidents of these universities have been a little negligent or a little bit fearful of using force? Is that why they're canceling graduation ceremonies? Is that what, are they getting concerned that one thing will trigger somebody that's been planted in these things? Because did you catch that? 100 arrests were made at Washington University. And she says right at 24, was probably a general. I bet it's closer maybe to 15 to 18 were students. The rest were non-students. These things, my friend, are, and think about this with me. Think about this with me. How much time to the break? Okay. These didn't happen like at one school. Then these all happened simultaneously. 18 campuses across America within 24 hours of each other started these pro-Palestinian, and most of them were the upper Ivy Leagues, and about every one of them were in blue states. A couple were in red states. The other thing that's interesting is they were all Hamas pro-Palestinian groups for the most part, 99%. Savvy? The tents, when someone did a legitimate, all the tents look very similar. Now, maybe they had a sale at Walmart, okay, but the bottom line is a lot of things look like it was common knowledge. Then they went up and started asking kids that didn't have a blowhorn or a whistle, someone that didn't have an authority type function. Why are you here? Why are you protesting? And many of them said, I don't know. And they looked at it, why are we protesting? They're out there just partying, living in a tent, probably having a little bit of college moments that college kids do. Kids in college, don't forget, there's a lot of kids, especially those that don't have a groundedness in Christ, they're looking for the next party, the next thrill, the next hit. That's a good possibility. A lot of this, but it's being portrayed as this big mass movement as anti-Israel and anti-America because the spin masters want you to think that. I think we should be very, very realistic thinking here and think, is this a possibility? Because when Jill Stein gets arrested, and I thought it was funny, Jill Stein and her comments.
To tell you the truth, because I got separated from the rest of the crowd, you know, and it.
Oh, Jill Stein got offended because she got separated from the crowd. Listen again. This lady is got to be 70s, okay, 75-ish looking anyway, and she allows herself to get arrested and thought she was going to have this glorious moment. Well, they separated her probably because she's a political figure and didn't want her to be maimed in main process holding. But listen to her whine about being arrested. When you get arrested, ma'am, it's not you're not getting taken down to the mall to get fitted for some new shoes.
To tell you the truth, because I got separated from the rest of the crowd, you know, and it initially felt like there was a lot of safety in numbers, but then it turned out that I was being charged with assault after being assaulted by a bicycle and basically thrown onto my head backwards. I was charged with assaulting a police officer.
Yeah, you're leaving a little bit out of the story there, Jill.
Can you believe it? And so.
Yes, I can believe it, Jill. I believe you assaulted the police officer.
So I got separated out and I was alone.
That's what happens when you get arrested. You don't go have a party in prison on the state's dime. I know in politics you're used to that. You guys like to go have a party and spend everyone else's money and then say, oh, I'm running for office. No, a lot of you guys just look for the big party, the big grouping. And, they offended her. They separated her from the group. She probably thought she was going to do a little politicking inside the pokey. And they separated her. Is that not rich? So I've got to ask you something. This is another USC Muslim Life Advisory Committee member resigns because of all this silliness.
That breaking news, the protests at USC are causing major consequences for students, many who are supposed to be getting ready for graduation. Good evening, everyone. I'm Annabelle Sedano.
And I'm Kathy Vara in today for Colleen. USC has canceled its graduation ceremony. NBC4's Macil Duncan is at the USC campus where he will have the very latest for us right now. Mac?
Well, the cancellation is not what students or professors thought what would happen. They were very much
Fellowship Church, 1176 Three Notch Road in Ringgold, Georgia, believes in God, believes in traditional American family values, and believes in using movies to tell the stories of those values. The last Tuesday of every month at 6:30 p.m., Christ Fellowship Church has a movie night, open to all members of the public that want to come and watch the movie. No admission charge. A free will offering will be taken. Tomorrow night, they'll be showing episodes 1 and 2, Season 4 of The Chosen, the highly acclaimed film series telling the life of Jesus Christ. Come, enjoy the movie. No admission charge. The address, 1176 Three Notch Road, Ringgold, Georgia. Episodes 1 and 2, Season 4 of The Chosen. You're invited. We'd like to see you there. Christ Fellowship Church, 1176 Three Notch Road, Ringgold, Georgia.
This is Macil Duncan, the pastor at Appleton Baptist Church. Our purpose statement is taking Jesus as he is to people as they are. We have a food pantry, a homeless ministry, Awanas, children, senior adult, all ministries for all ages. Come join us. Go to www.appisonbaptist.com. Check out the Appleton Baptist Church. We feed over 3,000 people one time a month at the Appleton Food Pantry. Will you help us raise funds, do food drives, and be in prayer for the Appleton Food Pantry? You can help us feed the hungry. Also, we have a homeless ministry that goes downtown and helps those in need downtown in tent cities. Please go to www.appisonbaptist.com. That's www.appisonbaptist.com. Make a generous donation today and help us feed the hungry at www.appisonbaptist.com. God bless, my friend. There's somebody hungry in your world. Do something about it. Welcome back, my friends. This is Macil Duncan. I am your host, and we are at the 96.9. We're back on the air here in Chattanooga locally. We are still with Heartbeat USA that takes us across the nation into 30 states, Canada, and Mexico. And we also have SGM affiliate out in Alabama. Pastor, salute to you, Rob, and your pals. Don't forget the New Jersey Freedom Caucus group up there and the MAGA group down in Atlanta. Thank you guys for carrying the show. Well, my path now, Russell Brand says this weekend after his baptism was incredibly overwhelming. That's right, Russell Brand, who was an actor, he became activist, became very popular with a podcast, then became persecuted because people started bringing up his past, and he supposedly found Christ. Podcast host Russell Brown announced he was baptized as a Christian over the weekend. The 48-year-old discussed a ritual in a video posted Monday morning on X brand, and has shared his intentions to be baptized last week after formerly being a proponent of Buddhism. He is now converted to Christianity, evidently. Yesterday I got baptized. It was incredible, profound experience. The British-born actor began in a video. Many aspects of it was very intimate and personal. The truth is this, as a person who was in the past taken many substances, has been disappointed with their inability to deliver the kind of tranquility and peace of even transcendental meditation that I've always felt I've been looking for. Something occurred in the process of baptism that was incredible and overwhelming. Now, my only concern, my friends, he doesn't mention Jesus Christ at all. Okay? And I've been trying to look for his quotes. He just keeps talking about the act of baptism. Now, if you're being baptized, now let me before I eat my words, the star forgetting Sarah Marshall actor continued saying some of his fans have been supportive while others are skeptical. This is new for me. I'm learning, but this is a new path for me, Brand said. And I already feel incredibly blessed, relieved, nourished, held. It's been an incredible experience. Okay, now I'm going to go down here to where I saw this quote. I'm so grateful to be surrendered in Christ, he concluded. There you go. Now, for some reason, they waited to put that at the end of the article. I missed that the first time I read it. So for Russell Brand to be baptized and say, I'm so grateful to be surrendered in Christ, that's interesting. So, I don't know. Now, let me tell you, it's not easy. Now, Brand said he believed baptism was an opportunity to die and be reborn, an opportunity to leave the past behind and be born in Christ's name. Now, this is getting better. Like it says in Galatians, he said in a separate video he shared Friday that you can live as an enlightened and awakened person. It's no surprise for those following Brand on social media. He's been studying and contemplating Christianity for months and began wearing a crucifix earlier this year. I suppose it takes a certain amount of adulthood, and it might be different for all of us. For me, it seems it's taken quite a bit or quite a lot to recognize what you need, and I need a personal relationship with God, he added. So he quoted Galatians. He mentions Christ, and let's also be. I know it's hard not to be skeptical, but then again, we got to remember, if a guy has been a Buddhist, he's been in Hollywood, he's traveled the world, he's probably participated in a lot of crazy things. He's new to the Christian faith, so how about we do this? How about we pray for him, take him at his word, and try to encourage him? Because I remember a young actor who gave his heart to Christ and announced it on The Tonight Show. And I know it's been a while back. Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen professed to know Christ. Someone had led him to Christ. But someone started trying to get him to share his testimony right after his conversion, which I think was a mistake, because all it did was make him a target. Because anytime he slipped up, and eventually the word is he got disillusioned, because Christians, we're hard on people. We're not very forgiving. We can be very judgmental. And we're whisperers and gossipers. I mean, that's a lot of Christians. If you just be real honest, you love to whisper about other Christians. And Charlie Sheen did not make a good decision or two there. As you know, he ended up being he got in 2.5. This is before 2.5 Men. But now, if you look at his life, it doesn't have any clue of Christ. So it's interesting. There's also rumor that Jim Carrey has become born again. So there may be something happening. I think it would be amazing if we started seeing people in the Hollywood world, if you would, to give their hearts to Christ. I don't know. But I just thought I'd mention to you, you can go to the Daily Wire and read the story and catch more of the quotes if you want to read it all for yourself. But Russell Brand gave his heart to God, said he found peace with the Lord and through Christ, and was baptized this weekend. One American News is reporting that 25% of employed Americans worry that their job's in danger. You know, that's a real thing. I've got a good friend of mine right now. He was a part of a cutback at a plant here in Chattanooga, and he was the assistant manager. And he shared with me, 6-8 months ago, he was under the belief that he was going to be the manager one day, and a guy ahead of him was going to step down. Next thing he knows, he's odd man out with a handful of folks. They had to do cutbacks. That's what's happening with the economy. A lot of folks are concerned. So 25% in this new poll, One American News says, 1 in 4 people in the working class of America are worried that their job could be in danger. I've got a good friend that works at Ace Hardware, and he just told me again this morning, and he told me last night to be in prayer. He's concerned about job security. People are starting to do that. You're sensing that, okay? This is a survey done by one poll, CSU Global, that involved 2,000 employed adults, and it was taking questions related to how they saw themselves, and found that 25% of Americans that are worried losing their job in the next year. And the other thing that has people concerned is that Biden has said he will not, if reelected, continue the Trump tax cuts. They are set to expire in 2025. So if Trump is not reelected, there's a good chance taxes are definitely going to be going up in 2025. So that's economic, and it's concerning people. 92% of Americans just said the number one issue for them is the economy. 92% of Americans. This is a recent Fox poll that says that they believe that the economy is the number one issue that's affecting them and will probably determine who they vote for. I don't know where you're at on this, but the economy is a big issue, and a lot of folks today, you hear it. Gas is back up. Grocery. I mean, you can hold in your hand what you used to could, for $100 of groceries, you can almost hold in your hand when you used to could fill up a grocery cart. A lot of folks are paying attention to that. And no matter how you try to spin it, people are concerned with the economy. So something for you to consider. We'll talk more about that later in the show, but I was real proud of Governor Lee. Tennessee governor signs a law allowing teachers to be armed on campus. This is so overdue because campuses are what you call soft zones. If you're going to be a nut job and want to go kill people with a gun, what are you going to look? You're going to look for soft zones, okay? And you go to places that don't allow people to carry guns. Schools are soft zones. Believe it or not, recruiting offices. Recruiters are not allowed to carry guns, and you're going, wait a minute. These guys have been in the military. They've been trained how to use a weapon. You would think you would want them to have a sidearm at least. And the massacre here in Chattanooga over a decade ago, if you guys remember, they killed several. The guy went to his car, got a gun that he had in his car, and took out the bad guy eventually. If he hadn't been packing, he probably would have died too. Interesting stuff. So Governor Lee signed legislation Friday allowing teachers and school staff in the state to carry concealed handguns on school property. The legislation aimed at improving school safety comes after about a year after a mass shooting that killed 3 children and 3 adults at the Covenant School in Nashville. By the way, this was a transgender. They're still keeping the manifesto a secret. They're not letting us see it, and because it doesn't fit their agenda. Okay, don't forget transgenderism, my friends, is still labeled a mental illness in most medical journals. And that's not, you can get mad at me for telling you that, but it's a fact, Jack. Go look. In medical journals, anyone that desires to change males, it was considered a mental illness. And then when they have these sex changes to have these adjustments to their body, it causes even more anxiety, depression, anger problems because these drugs are trying to alter their DNA, I guess, if you will, or their makeup, and it causes a lot of issues. It said here in Texas is suing the Biden administration over a new transgender Title IX rules. And you guys can go to the Daily Wire and read this, but you may have heard. Instead of going through Congress and getting laws changed, Title IX's a law. But he went through one of his secretaries to try to include transgenderism and guys that are pretending to be chicks to allow them to have the rights of Title IX. Well, it's already being challenged in a court of law, and there's people saying, "Hey, we're not going to hear to this," and so you're seeing a lot of concern, and I think rightfully so. And so people are lawyering up, and there's lawsuits right now across the nation, and it's going to get ugly. And we'll talk about that maybe later in the show. Confirm federal government giving voter registration forms to non-citizen refugees. Now, I know this is probably a big shocker to you, but when people are crossing into our country illegally, instead of writing them a ticket, arresting them, oh no, we're giving them the opportunity to vote. The federal government is giving voter registration forms to non-citizen refugees. According to South Carolina State Representative and congressional candidate Adam Morgan, the federal government is including voter registration forms in packets at the Social Security office. Okay, they're not even hiding it. If you're going to give out something at Social Security office in Spartanburg, South Carolina, this is being reported. Is the federal government giving voter registration forms to non-citizens? Yes, they are. This is your Fact Check Moment by Macil Duncan Radio. Did you know Rules for Radicals was written by Saul Alinsky? He dedicated the book to Satan. He said the first successful rebellion ever was when he took 1/3 of the angels from hell, from heaven to hell. Here are the 8 things. He said if you can control health care, create poverty, increase the debt unsustainable, control all guns, then put people on welfare, control education, and keep religion out of the public square, and create, number 8, a class welfare state, then you can control any country. These 8 things are in the Rules for Radical book that was nothing but satanic jargon. Be wise, my friends, because he trained Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and many others you deem as leftist heroes. Check it out. This is a Fact Check by Macil Duncan. Hello, friends. This is Macil Duncan, radio host of the Macil Duncan Radio Show. Check out my new book, Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith. In my book, I talk about the mountain of bitterness, the mountain of division, how to deal with the mountain of fear, the 12-hour anger limit, how you can have peace in a troubled world. Check out my book, Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith, Amazon Books, Barnes & Nobles, Books A Million, wherever you get your online reading. Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith by Macil Duncan. Hey, friend, do you feel the pressures of this world? Romans 12:2 says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When the world is crazy and life looks hopeless, remember to turn to God, and sometimes it's just a matter of mind, renewing your mind through prayer, worship, attending church, being with like-minded believers, and do what the Scripture says. Don't be conformed to this world, but renew your mind, and it will transform your attitudes, your actions, and your faith. This is Pastor Duncan with USA Heartbeat Radio. Welcome back, my friends. This is Macil Duncan with the Macil Duncan Show. Hope you guys are having a good day. It's been a pretty warm day here in Chattanooga, and up at the Absent Food Pantry, we had our leadership meeting today, the executive team, and just grateful for all the people out there that are offering help, and we just want to say thank you to all that help us with food drives, financial help, prayer support. Some of you that say, hey, we want to do bags for the homeless. A special shout out to the Udwal Methodist Church. They did 50 bags for the homeless, and that enabled us to take right at 200 bags down this past Friday, 50 of them from the Methodist Church. And those bags are tremendous. Now, when we go downtown, here's a particular bag. Now, this was provided by Salt and Light Ministry, a ladies' Bible study group here in Chattanooga. They meet at the Hollander Barn. But they put all kind of hygiene items in here, food items, toilet paper, bottled water, brushes, things of that nature. And then we add snack bars or anything extra. Now, what makes these interesting is these are nice little backpacks for them to have in the warm journey time, because many folks that are homeless will use the summer months to hitchhike and go back and try to maybe visit family. Sometimes they're stuck through the winter, and that's what happens here in Chattanooga. We get folks that transition, and somewhere between October, November, and March, they get stuck here, and then they move on. Some folks, I've made a relationship. They've been down there the 4 years we've been going down. Some even call me Preacher Man in the white van when I pull up in the white van with food and supplies. But I just tell you, it's a blessing to help others. Something that you consider. Your church or you as an individual, you can do something and think about it. Now, what's interesting is these protests and all this stuff going around the country has got a lot of folks thinking different views. Many of you probably have heard chants like this right here across the country or on TV.
We begin the first hour of Fox and Friends with this. This is unbelievable. Anti-Israeli protesters find the Hezbollah flag in front of the New York Stock Exchange. Yes, the terroristic flag located in Lebanon. They're chanting also "Death to America" in a few languages while marching through the streets of various cities in America.
So they're chanting "Death to America," and you may say, that's rather interesting. Why would they do that? I don't know why you would do that, especially if you live in this country. Now, if you've been brought in through the southern border, let's see, there's, 13 to 15 million now? Some of them may be brought in just for moments like this going into a presidential election. We'll see. But a shockeroo to me was Fetterman. The senator from Pennsylvania, who's a Democrat, who had health issues, couldn't hardly pronounce his name, goes in and comes out with much better speech, and all of his tattoos are gone. Don't know what that's all about. He had all the tattoos around his neck, and they're gone. So, interesting. Fetterman blasts anti-Semitic protesters. I don't believe living in a pup tent for Hamas is really helpful. Yeah, I gotta like what he's saying. I can't believe he's saying it. A guy that couldn't pronounce his name during the election period has come out very, very strong. Again, he says, I don't believe living in a pup tent for Hamas is really helpful. Senator John Fetterman, Democrat from Pennsylvania, slammed college students involved in pro-Hamas campuses across the country over the last couple of weeks, saying that the germ of anti-Semitism was present. He called it the germ of anti-Semitism. And Fetterman made the remarks on Sunday during an interview with News Nation about the ongoing protest, many of which has turned violent and led to hundreds of arrests. And as I mentioned, there were 100 or more arrested at Washington University this weekend, and Jill Stein, the Green Party presidential candidate, was one of those arrested. So it's interesting. But Columbia University will not divest from Israel, president says. One of the big things that the students say they're demanding, they're demanding that the school divest from Israel. Now, again, I'll remind you, in the report that I shared with you, the 100 that were arrested at Washington University, only 24 were considered students. That meant 75 to 76 people were not students, okay? That means only 1 in 4 at that particular arrest were students, including one Green Party presidential candidate, Jill Stein. What's going on? Who's funding this? Why are more students? Why are non-students on college campuses? Now, here's the deal. If you want to have free speech as a college student, okay. But how come non-students are allowed to reside on private property unless it's been somehow sanctioned, agreed upon, little backroom deals? Got to ask yourself. But the Columbia University said they will not divest from Israel. Could it be because Robert Kraft just renounced his giving to the university, and other large donors said, until you deal with this, we're not sending any more money? It's all comes down to the money, does it not, my friend? Does it not? At least it appears that way. So the far left Green Party presidential candidate arrested at campus anti-Israel protest. Jill Stein. Now, what made her interesting, when she ran for president in 2016, she was in the mix there with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, etc. Well, when Feel the Burn, if you guys remember, Bernie Sanders, many felt, won the Democratic nomination. But they pulled, with the superdelegates, they kind of removed Bernie and they installed Hillary Clinton anyway, even though she did not win the Democratic primary. And one that will vouch for that is Tulsi Gabbard, who was the vice president of the party at the time and was a superdelegate. But she also was a Bernie supporter. Okay, if you remember that. So she withdrew, she resigned as vice president. She gave up her superdelegate vote because she said they stole the election from Bernie. And then she and others threw their support behind Jill Stein. And if you remember, Jill Stein got not quite 3%, 2% plus, but they said it was just enough in several key states to hurt Hillary Clinton. Savvy? So Jill Stein, many feel, cost Hillary Clinton the election. At least that's the liberal, because they don't want to admit that Donald Trump beat her. Well, what's happening now is you're having Robert F. Kennedy, who's got a whole lot more sway than Jill Stein. And I've got some clips I'll play for you later in the show. But I ask you this. If you're a Democrat, and I've got some Democrats that like to listen to my show, some for heckling, but others because you agree with some of my fiscal views and you love your country. I think it's interesting why the Democrats did not let Kennedy primary Biden. I think they didn't want another situation where Bernie technically won, but they wanted Hillary in because Hillary, she checked all their boxes for them. I think they knew if Biden had a challenger, and if Biden ran against in a primary Robert Kennedy would have been the Democratic nominee. And I would like to have seen that. Can you imagine Robert Kennedy going against Donald Trump as the true Democratic candidate? I think it'd be a great election. I think he would have picked probably a different vice president. He had to pick a sugar mama because he needs money, okay? And the lady that's his VP has a huge checkbook because she was once married to the guy that founded Google, okay? One of the founders of Google. So she's got some money. She paid $4 million for his Super Bowl ad alone. But with that said, many feel just like Stein took between 2 and 3% of the national vote, they're thinking Kennedy could go double digit. Kennedy could go 10% to maybe 11%. And if I'm not mistaken, Ross Perot, back when he first ran, he ran two different times. He's the one that helped Bill Clinton get in. Bush Sr. would have won if Ross Perot had not run. Okay? But Ross Perot from Texas, he was an oil guy that had a beef with the Bushes, so he ran. So basically, he picked the Bush's back pocket. Savvy? It's kind of like what happened here in our mayor election here in Chattanooga. If Sabrina Smedley or if Matt had dropped out of the race, I don't think Weston could have beat them. But because Sabrina and Matt stayed in the race, they were fishing from the same pond because he grew up in Appleton and she was District 7 commissioner and had all the relations on this side of the county. So they split the vote, if you will. If one of them had just backed out, I don't think Weston would have won because Weston had to make a deal with the Democrats to get the 8,000 votes. Now, before you get all mad and pouty about that, that's politics. It's not illegal. And I'll just go on to say, you guys may not like me saying this, but Weston, after he had a turbulence, he's turned out to be a pretty good mayor. His first few weeks in office, I think he showed some petulance, but he's really stepped it up. I think he's looks like he's got some good stuff going. And the other thing you got to admit, his dad was a good politician. You want to be like your dad. Hats off to Weston, and I've prayed for him, and I've told him I support him now that he's the mayor, and I wish him well. But my point is, I think that's what's going to happen in the upcoming presidential election. I think Robert F. Kennedy is going to pick off enough votes because we'll play for you in a little bit. The new poll just came out. CNN is reporting, actually, that Trump now has a substantial lead, even with the margin of error, that if the election were today, he would win a pretty sweeping victory over Biden. And they're blaming Kennedy for it. But I believe the other factor is now that Jill Stein is still running. Now, I think her little publicity stunt getting arrested, I don't think it really helps her, but it puts her name in circulation. Say Jill Stein gets that 2 to 3% again. I think 2% would be more accurate, but some try to say 3%. If she gets 2% nationally, she's not getting any MAGA people. That's more very left-leaning people. You got Kennedy, who's a liberal Democrat, mind you. He's very likable. He's got a lot of common sense. He challenges Big Pharma, but at the end of the day, Kennedy's a liberal, okay? And if you can handle that, if you're a liberal, I understand. But what I would call Kennedy, he's a moderate liberal compared to Biden, who has become a very progressive far-left liberal. Savvy? So with that coming up in November, between now the Palestine movement and this college chaos going across the country, they're trying to change the narrative. But again, as I just went around the barn to tell you, the poll that just came out, 92% said the economy is their concern. For these stars that shine,
Christ Fellowship Church, 1176 Three Notch Road in Ringgold, Georgia, believes in God, believes in traditional American family values, and believes in using movies to tell the stories of those values. The last Tuesday of every month at 6:30 p.m., Christ Fellowship Church has a movie night open to all members of the public that want to come and watch the movie. No admission charge. A free will offering will be taken. Tomorrow night, they'll be showing episodes 1 and 2, season 4 of The Chosen, the highly acclaimed film series telling the life of Jesus Christ. Come, enjoy the movie. No admission charge. The address, 1176 Three Notch Road, Ringgold, Georgia. Episodes 1 and 2, season 4 of The Chosen. You're invited. We'd like to see you there. Christ Fellowship Church, 1176 Three Notch Road, Ringgold, Georgia.
We feed over 3,000 people one time a month at the Appison Food Pantry. Will you help us raise funds, do food drives, and be in prayer for the Appison Food Pantry? You can help us feed the hungry. Also, we have a homeless ministry that goes downtown and helps those in need downtown in tent cities. Please go to www.appisonbaptist.com. That's www.appisonbaptist.com. Make a generous donation today and help us feed the hungry at www.appisonbaptist.com. God bless, my friend. There's somebody hungry in your world. Do something about it.
My Forever Memories helps to bring you the Macil Duncan radio show. My Forever Memories believes in family values, in American values, and we believe in remembering those who have gone before us. We provide a transparent, weather-resistant container that can be attached to a gravesite in which you can put a picture of the loved one who is lying there. You can also put notes, greeting cards. You see, it's all about remembering those who have gone before us. We believe in memories. We believe in family values, and we remember those family values held dear by the ones who have gone before us. America is important. Our traditional American values are important, and remembering those who have helped us to build this country is important. And that's why we help bring you the Macil Duncan Radio Show. You can find out more about us by going to our website, myforevermemories.com.
Hello, friends. This is Macil Duncan, radio host of the Macil Duncan Radio Show. Check out my new book, Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith. In my book, I talk about the mountain of bitterness, the mountain of division, how to deal with the mountain of fear, the 12-hour anger limit, how you can have peace in a troubled world. Check out my book, Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith, Amazon Books, Barnes & Nobles, Books A Million, wherever you get your online reading. Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith by Macil Duncan.
Welcome back, 96.9 FM. They asked me to come back, and we're back, the Macil Duncan Show. The names have changed. Nuga's gone. Destiny Media is in. Welcome back, my friend. Just like welcome back, Carter. We're good to be back in Chattanooga on the 96.9 FM. Welcome, my friends. Got lots happening here. Our country, it's a great country, and I think a lot of folks, we can get so preoccupied. There's always the protest. There's always the issue, but there's always, again, this country. What makes this country great is, I think, even though you have the blemishes, you have the troublemakers, if you will, the spin doctors, when it comes down to it, American people have common sense. Now, this go woke, go broke stuff, I think has really hit home. Now, this is Tim Cast, and see what you think about his take on the Google parent company loses $70 billion in market. Okay, why? Because it made a stupid woke move with its AI, and just take a listen and we'll comment.
Google's parent company Alphabet has lost $70 billion in market value after woke AI chatbot disaster. I'm of the opinion that Google needs to shut down its AI chatbot Gemini immediately because we are looking at an unprecedented product defect case.
Now, if you haven't heard, their AI Gemini, they can't say this was accidental. Obviously has some very racist intention. Listen further.
Where the product is defaming people en masse. There's something really interesting about what we're seeing with Google Gemini. It is, and it's not just Google Gemini, it's AI in general, which I believe shows the limitations of AI. Now, this loss in stock value is a major victory. It shows get woke, go broke.
That's what we said. So Google's lost $70 billion at the initial just a few weeks ago. It's actually gone down further. It's getting closer to $80 billion. Now, what's caused the big? People have lost. They lose interest when they see a product that's so woke, so over the top, much like the Budweiser. It's called now being Bud Lighted. Well, Google has been Bud Lighted. People are not buying the stock right now because this AI Gemini is so woke. Well, Jerry Seinfeld, you guys know, probably one of the funniest clean comics. Every now and then he may have said something that you might have thought was borderline sexual or something, but he was I think many would, especially with the definition of today, a clean guy. And his comedic moments, and especially his show that was supposed to be about nothing. This is Jerry Seinfeld on how the left destroyed comedy, and he blames the woke approach. See what you think, Jerry Seinfeld.
Nothing really affects comedy. People always need it. They need it so badly, and they don't get it. It used to be you would go home at the end of the day, most people would go, oh, Cheers is on. Oh, MASH is on. Oh, Mary Tyler Moore is on. All in the Family's on. You just expected there'll be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap, of the extreme left and PC crap. The result of the extreme left and PC crap, and people worrying so much about offending other people. Mm-hmm. When you write a script and it goes into 4 or 5 different hands, committees, groups, here's our thought about this joke, well, that's the end of your comedy. They move the gates, like in the scheme. Culture, the gates are moving. Your job is to be agile and clever enough that wherever they put the gates, I'm going to make the gate.
So he pretty much blames, he said he called it woke PC crap. And a lot of folks have that view that the woke has gone too far. Now, this is PragerU talking about the Progressive's Guide to Political Correctness. Now, this was a few years ago, but let me play some of it and see if you don't agree that, now, actually, this was 8 years ago, okay? Now, see how still true this is, progressivism, and how it's even much more extreme. This is before transgender was thrown in our face. But do you remember some of these points? For instance, the Washington Redskins. Remember? They started with those kind of topics, and then they've just, it's gotten worse. See what you think about PragerU, their little take here on the indignance of progressiveness makes me sick.
There's a real competition going on, and it's sweeping the nation. Progressive versus progressive, competing to see who can most flamboyantly claim to be offended, to proclaim that their feelings have been hurt, or that their sensitivities have been rubbed raw, or their serenity disturbed, or their composure discombobulated by something that someone has said, or by something they have seen, such as a Confederate flag, or a building named after Woodrow Wilson. But, actually, I think progressives are not sufficiently imaginative. There are many more things they could be indignant about, starting with where I live, Washington, D.C.
Now check this out. How come they've not tried to change the name of Washington, D.C.? After this, it might be coming. This was 8 years ago, but I'm surprised they've not targeted Washington, D.C. yet.
The Washington Post newspaper is, if it will pardon the expression, on the warpath against the name of the Washington Redskins football team. The paper says the name is racist, insulting, demeaning, insensitive, and so on. But the Washington Post takes its name from its city, which is named for George Washington, who was not only a slave owner, he was a tobacco farmer, which some progressives probably think is almost as awful. Surely the Post should change its name and should demand that the nation's capital be renamed, perhaps as Eleanor Roosevelt City. Obviously, it cannot be named for her husband, he who ordered the internment of 117,000 persons of Japanese descent, 2/3 of whom were native-born American citizens. And there are hundreds of other towns, counties, parks, and schools named for Washington, such as Washington and Lee University. Good grief, the name is double hate speech. Robert E. Lee actually commanded the Confederate Army. Washington is not the only name progressives should scrutinize. The word Oklahoma is a compound of two words from the Choctaw language, words meaning red and people. If it is intolerable to have a football team named Redskins, it must be worse to have a state named Red People. But let's get back to cleansing America of all mentions of historic figures who were less than perfect progressives. On the tidal basin in Washington, there's a memorial to the slave-owning Thomas Jefferson. This memorial should have a trigger warning carved into its marble. Jacksonville, Florida, and Jackson, Mississippi, and many other places and things are named for Andrew Jackson, the tormentor of Native Americans. All must be renamed for someone who was saintly as progressives understand saintliness.
Are you getting the picture? There is such a move. Now, when they went after all these historical places and historical representations, they wanted to make people hate the past as if it were the present. Savvy? You get people to hate the Confederate flag, for instance, even though it's been way in the past, that if anyone endears to the Confederate flag today, for instance, the TV show with the guy, the Dukes of Hazzards, they had the Confederate flag and their car was named the General Lee. Can you imagine today if that was a remake? You know they would have to do a total overhaul of that show because they would not want to have any glorification, even through humor, about the Confederate flag or General Lee. Savvy? What they've done a great job of doing is making people hate the past as if it's the present, and anything that resembles what they think is bad of the past instead of seeing any of the good. For instance, George Washington, he mentioned several things. One, George Washington was a slave owner, and he also was a tobacco farmer. That's how he made a lot of his wealth at that time. Well, now tobacco is considered an evil thing. They went after the tobacco industry during the Clinton years, you know, and don't forget Clinton was a Democrat. The tobacco owners were Republicans, but I'm sure that had nothing to do with them going. It was really all about health, right? Because that's what they were concerned with, is the health and well-being of the people, right? That's why they embrace now these vapes and things that have now proven to be almost as dangerous, if not a whole new slew of health concerns. But my point being, when the progressives go after something, it's usually not because they are so angry with that product or that situation. It's a stepping stone to get you down the road to where they want you to be. Now, I've shared this before, but these are the 8 steps to controlling a society. It's called the 8 Levels of Control of Useful Idiots by Saul Alinsky. Now, he gets that term, useful idiots, because this is the term that the Russian Stalin used when he said taking over Russia. He used these 8 things, and he called the people that followed him useful idiots. Let's see if you're a useful idiot. Number 1, healthcare. Control healthcare and you control the people. That's the number 1 thing in Saul Alinsky's book, Rules for Radicals. And he also was a mentor to Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. He was from Chicago. Even though he died in late 70s. He was still an impactful. When Hillary Clinton was in school, she mentions him as a mentor, and so does Barry. So healthcare, control healthcare, you control the people. 2, poverty. Increase poverty level as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control and will not fight back if you're providing everything for them. Stimulus checks. I don't want to go back to work. I like free money. Do you remember how many restaurants and people said they couldn't find people to work? Debt. Number 3, increase the debt to an unsustainable level. That way you are able to increase taxes and will produce more poverty. Savvy? Number 4, gun control. Remove the ability to defend themselves from the government. That way you're able to create a police state. Ask Australia and Canada how they like having no guns. Number 5, welfare. Take control of every aspect of their lives, food, housing, and income. So let me do the first 5 again. Healthcare, poverty, in debt, increased national debt, gun control, welfare. But what's number 6? Education. Take control of every aspect of their lives, as I said, but also take control of what people read and listen to. Take control of what children learn in school and give parents no option. That's education. That's today's modern education. Parents, you remember what Hillary Clinton said, after age 5, parents have no rights. Children become wards of the state, meaning their rearing is up to the federal government from there on out. Number 7, religion. Remove the belief of God from government and the schools. And number 8, class warfare. Divide the people into wealthy and poor. This will cause more disconnect and will be easier to take, and the wealthier will be subdued, and the rich will control what goes on. So a lot of folks are saying, okay, is that part of the future? Say electric cars. I mean, no matter how they spin it, you realize that electric cars are a way to control you. All they have to do is flip a switch and your car doesn't work. You're a bad boy or a bad girl on the social media, or you're a bad boy and bad girl and you vote for the wrong candidate in the wrong county or state, click, your car don't work, you're walking. Savvy? 15-minute cities. Trying to locate, put you in a location and trying to sell it on the fact that, hey, you can walk everywhere and you won't have to worry about all these fossil fuels. But what if I want to drive to California on vacation? Sorry, you're going to be in a zone, my friend. You won't be able to go past zone. What if I have family at 3 states over? That's what Facebook's for, and that's what Zoom's for now. You don't have the opportunity to travel. Because once they go all electric, you will not have the ability. They're going to keep you demobilized. Because mobilizing people right now, if you have Second Amendment rights and you have the freedom of mobility, you just might have the audacity to unite and make some kind of a movement that might go against their norm or their narrative. Savvy? So there's a lot to consider if you'll be smart and be wise. When they give free things away, it's not because they care about you. It's because they want to control you. And once you get people under control, it's really easy to manipulate the situation and the outcome. So I think that's what you're seeing here a lot of. And I think it's a lot of people concerned because, let's be honest, many folks are concerned that we're headed to an anti-Semitism start of World War III, because look what they're doing now. Now, Alan Dershowitz, who is a very, very respected Democrat, he's voted liberal. He'll tell you he never voted for Trump, but he defends Trump's rights. And he was on Trump's legal team in his second impeachment trial before the Senate, and he helped, keep them sane, if you will. But Alan Dershowitz, who is a liberal Democrat, has said he believes the reason you're having such anti-Semitism right now, he says, because, are you ready for this? DEI training and the CRT in the public schools. He goes, DEI training, this equity and inclusion, all this stuff, what you're being taught, the underlining thing is you're very anti-Semitic and it's very anti-white male. And you think about it, anyone that gets really involved in DEI and CRT comes across racist towards Jews and to white males. All of a sudden, if you're white, you have to apologize for your race. You had no choice. You're born that way. But somehow you're supposed to apologize because you are white. There were actually Caucasian kids that were made to apologize to their students of color around the country over the last 5 to 6 years. You've seen the reports because teachers made them apologize to their colored students because of something of the past in the middle of history classes or something. Why put that mental baggage on a kid to make them feel like they are somehow responsible for something that happened way before their lifetime? It's a mental control tactic. It's manipulation. So with all this said, does anyone think right now that the left is winning? Joe Biden is the far left. He's the most liberal president we've ever had. But the new polls out, he's also the least popular president in the past 70 years. He's below Nixon and Jimmy Carter. One American News just put this out today, and it's rather interesting. A new poll has revealed that the United States President Joe Biden is the least popular commander-in-chief in the last 70 years, behind Jimmy Carter and Richard Nixon. And this is a Gallup poll found in a survey that he is now at 38.7% job approval rating. That is the least popular president. Now, CMI polling has his, he's down in the 20s. He's 28 to 29%. But this, of course, they're trying to probably be generous. I think he's going to go down as the most unpopular leader probably globally, not just here in America. This guy's policies pretty much stink, and a lot of folks are saying they can't understand how the guy has sunk this low, and the Democrats would not replace him. I cannot allow, they didn't even allow Kennedy to primary him, to have a fair, square shot to give the Democrat registers an opportunity to pick someone else. But Fox News goes on to say a scathing poll, reveals Biden has in common with these presidents who lost battle elections, and it's showing how bad the polls are. And I was looking at this. Now, MSNBC actually posted this, and I was rather shocked that they did so because MSNBC, is never known for posting much truth or anything I would consider truth. And they put the poll out and also mentioned that Biden trails Trump by 6 points according to a CNN national survey. Okay, 49 to 43%. This is CNN poll that just came out in the last 24 hours. Now CNN, had to doctor that. It's worse than that. But for CNN to admit that Biden is down 6 clear points. If the election went today, they said it would be a wipeout, that Donald Trump would clearly win with a huge victory. Is anyone surprised? I don't think so. So what's happening is CNN's become a mockery. Now, Joe Rogan mocked CNN's poor ratings while talking about the network and how it attacked him back in 2021 over his ivermectin treatment. If you remember, they even tried to doctor up a video of him making him look yellow as if he had jaundice or something because of taking ivermectin. I mean, CNN, the liberals, they deserve every bit that they're getting. Their deceitfulness and the way they went about their business was wrong. And Joe Rogan is celebrating their bad. But here's the thing. They're trying to now come across fair and balanced with these polls showing Trump ahead because their ratings are in the tank. So even my liberal friends out there have got to be confused that all of a sudden CNN is doing somewhat favorable pieces on Donald Trump and painting him somewhat as a victim a little bit in these court cases because the people are seeing it that way. See, when we push back as the American people and we say, listen, I may have been born yesterday, but I'm not an idiot. You guys are pushing things we know cannot be true. And when their ratings tank, and people now are voting with their feet in their pocketbook, much like Bud Light found out, much like Target found out, much like Starbucks found out, much like so many other big chains and products have found out, when you force things down our throats like transgenderism, people are going to push back and say, I don't want that in my face. Why do you think Caitlin Clark's so popular? She caught the perfect storm. She is a straight, white athlete that doesn't have an agenda. She just wants to play ball. She broke a lot of records. She's a very good ball player. And she's beyond it. She's a great ball player. But she hit the perfect time, and she's bang, she's box, man. And if she keeps her nose, don't become Taylor Swift. Don't. My advice, Caitlin, just play ball. Just play ball. Now you're saying, what if she's a born again Christian? You want her? No, I don't. I really just want her to play ball. Give kids and give America something to root for that's not divisive. And I think that's what she could do if she chooses to. She's got the ability. Because right now we have a lot of divisiveness in us. Now, the Hill, which isn't always conservative, Trump maintains a hefty lead over Biden in new survey. And they're quoting the CNN survey. So again, they're rallying around Trump in the lead for some reason. Now, it could be to make Christian voters lazy. And that's a very good strategy for them, if you will. Because a lot of Christians, and how many of you out there, have sat home on election day saying, well, my area's red anyway. He's going to win my area. Why don't I just stay home and eat my fried chicken and watch my rerun of whatever? Because national votes matter. Even if Donald Trump or your candidate is going to win in your district, you should vote not just for your local, but for your state and national average. They need to know that you care. I can't say it enough. I hope everyone votes November 5th. Every liberal, every conservative, every moderate. I hope records are set in all parties. Legitimate, real record, so they can't monkey with the election. If we all show up, can you imagine if we had 75% turnout for voter election? It would freak them out. Because then they'd have to go, crap, we can't use these jacked up stuff because it'll be too obvious. The people will know. See, but here's what they do. They make you think your vote doesn't count, or they make you think the system's rigged. They give you so many reasons to say, phooey. That puts them in charge. When you give up your constitutional right to vote, you have given them your vote, basically. You've given them the keys to your car and said, drive it wherever you want, put all the miles on it, but I'll pay for the gas, and I'm going to pay if you wreck it. Because that's what they're doing to the economy. They're about to wreck it, and they're putting all of this mileage for themselves and not for you and I, my friends. It's important. Please vote. Please vote. Well, we've talked about that topic. Well, as we're getting ready for the break, how much time do I got here? I got about 2 minutes till. Go back over here to this. I found this to be very interesting. 1 in 4 people that have a job right now feel that their job's in danger. 25% of those that are currently employed in America feel their job's in danger for various reasons. Now, I don't know if you're one of those, but it says the poll shows also that 32% are worried that they're falling behind or lacking the skills they need to succeed in their position. 54% of respondents admitted that their skills are feeling outdated because of computer knowledge and things of that nature. However, 53% of all participants also said that they enjoy being in the same role that they have been in for so many years. So 9 in 10 participants expressed that it's vital to prioritize learning new skills set as a professional in order to advance in their career, and 74% said that they are interested in making themselves appear more valuable. So even though 1 in 4 believe they'll lose their job, 74% say, I want to do a better job.
Christ Fellowship Church, 1176 Three Notch Road in Ringgold, Georgia, believes in God, believes in traditional American family values, and believes in using movies to tell the stories of those values. The last Tuesday of every month at 6:30 p.m., Christ Fellowship Church has a movie night, open to all members of the public that want to come and watch the movie. No admission charge. A free will offering will be taken. Tomorrow night, they'll be showing episodes 1 and 2, Season 4 of The Chosen, the highly acclaimed film series telling the life of Jesus Christ. Come, enjoy the movie. No admission charge. The address, 1176 Three Notch Road, Ringgold, Georgia. Episodes 1 and 2, Season 4 of The Chosen. You're invited. We'd like to see you there. Christ Fellowship Church, 1176 Three Notch Road, Ringgold, Georgia.
This is Macil Duncan, the pastor at Appleton Baptist Church. Our purpose statement is taking Jesus as he is to people as they are. We have a food pantry, a homeless ministry, Awanas, children, senior adult, all ministries for all ages. Come join us. Go to www.appisonbaptist.com. Check out the Appleton Baptist Church. We feed over 3,000 people one time a month at the Appleton Food Pantry. Will you help us raise funds, do food drives, and be in prayer for the Appleton Food Pantry? You can help us feed the hungry. Also, we have a homeless ministry that goes downtown and helps those in need downtown in tent cities. Please go to www.appisonbaptist.com. That's www.appisonbaptist.com. Make a generous donation today and help us feed the hungry at www.appisonbaptist.com. God bless, my friend. There's somebody hungry in your world. Do something about it.
Tonight for Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Fox 32 has learned that FBI agents served subpoenas on Friday at the Thornton Township Hall in South Holland, where Henyard is also serving as township supervisor. Now, we don't know yet what the FBI is asking for in those subpoenas. Last week, we broke the news that the FBI had served 2 subpoenas on the village of Dalton, asking for the personnel and disciplinary files of 29 Dalton employees, as well as any contracts and payments made to Henyard's top assistant, Keith Freeman, who also serves in that role at Thornton Township. The subpoenas also revealed that a federal grand jury has been investigating allegations of corruption surrounding Henyard and others since November of last year. Also today, several dozen residents of Thornton Township gathered at a rally demanding Henyard's resignation and a full investigation into her spending at the township. They called it the Take Our Township Back Rally. The residents say they're fed up with the lack of transparency, accountability, and information about how their tax dollars are being spent. Fox 32 has reported numerous stories about Henyard's spending on trips, security, billboards, and a $10,000 taxpayer-funded payment to her charity. Thornton Township is comprised of 17 South suburban communities.
This lady is quite the piece of cake, and what's interesting is her law firm just announced they're no longer going to represent her. But this lady, if you didn't vote for her, she went after certain businesses because she called them a menace to society and had them shut down. This is totalitarian, and it's unreal. And as people would show up, she would shut meetings down. She didn't want to hear any negativity, and she's quite the little dictator. Well, the FBI came to visit on Friday, and now here on Monday, her law firm just dropped her.
Tonight for embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard. The law firm representing Henyard and the village of Dalton in a slew of lawsuits is asking to withdraw from those cases. The Delgado Law Group says it's not being paid, so it'll stop appearing in federal and state.
Wait a minute, I thought she gave $10 million to her private charity. She has no money to pay for her legal bills?
Court and defending Dalton and Henyard in 22 different lawsuits.
22 different lawsuits.
In a letter to Henyard and trustees obtained by Fox 32, the law firm says the village is facing millions of dollars in judgments from earlier cases and could potentially be on the hook for millions more in the current lawsuits, and says the village is quickly approaching the point of becoming uninsurable.
Can you believe a town is become this mayor has bankrupted the town so bad that they're going to be uninsurable. Now, the reason I mention this is because this wackadoo mayor reminds me of another wackadoo named Fannie the Willis. We haven't heard from Fannie the Wanny in a while because I just, there's stuff out there, but I was going to wait. But here, Fannie the Wanny's facing a lawsuit, just got dropped.
New at 6 o'clock, a Georgia lawmaker is set to announce a new lawsuit against Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis next week. Georgia Representative Misha Maynor is set to hold a news conference on Tuesday to announce the filing. Maynor is also expected to address oversight of prosecutors in Georgia, along with statistics concerning Fulton County Jail inmates currently awaiting prosecution after being denied a bond beyond the 90-day threshold. Maynor claims District Attorney Fannie Willis has failed to prosecute. All new at 6 o'clock.
So Fannie the Wanny Willis is in a situation where she's got lawsuits coming. So she was invited to a debate, and she decided not to show up. This is funny.
Let's meet the candidates. Christian Y. Smith is an author and attorney.
Okay.
Fannie Willis has served as Fulton County District Attorney since 2021. Ms. Willis declined to participate in the debate and is represented by an empty podium.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
So Fannie Willis was challenged to come to a debate. Now, she's supposed to be the incumbent. She can't run on a record. She can't run because of all the stuff that's come out. So she skipped the debate, and her challenger got the whole time to talk. So to mock her, and these were all people of color, they put up a podium, an empty podium, to represent Fannie the Wanny Willis in Georgia. So I think this is interesting. We'll see what happens with Fannie the Wanny. But I have a feeling that her day's coming. Well, is Biden in big trouble or not? Some believe that he is. Check this out.
Bidenomics is working.
What we have seen is historic numbers. We are in a historic place in history, historic place right now, as we look at where we are with the economy.
Folks, Bidenomics is just another way of saying the American dream.
And I'll take a step back for a second. In the last 2 years, almost 3 years now, the president has done more in the last 3 years than some presidents had done in 2 terms, Mika, in 2 terms.
President Biden and I are building an economy that works for working people. And that, my friends, is called Bidenomics. And Bidenomics is working. My friends, is called Bidenomics. It's called Bidenomics. It's called Bidenomics. It's called Bidenomics. And Bidenomics is working.
When we look at where we are economically, and we are stronger economically than we have been in history.
Well, I think that the American people are smart as hell and know what their interests are. I think they know they're better off financially than they were before. It's a fact. And all that data, all that polling stuff shows they think they're more positive about the economy than they've been, more positive about their jobs, et cetera.
Our country is going to hell.
We're also getting some new polling out today on the 2024 race. Walk us through what this means for the president.
Donald Trump showing in these polls that he continues to hold an advantage over President Joe Biden. Donald Trump showing in these polls that he continues to hold an advantage over President Joe Biden. Donald Trump, showing in these polls that he continues to hold an advantage over President Joe Biden. Now, according to these numbers that you see there on your screen, 49% of registered voters choose Donald Trump, and then only 43% for Biden.
Not a joke.
There is major disapproval over the president's handling of the Israel-Hamas war.
Not a joke.
There is major disapproval over the president's handling of the Israel-Hamas war, with 71% disapproving. And then two is the economy. And this has been an issue that the White House and the Biden campaign have tried to convey to voters that it is heading in the right direction. But we are still seeing in these numbers that there is still quite a bit of hesitation over whether that's indeed true, with registered voters here only 34% approving of the president's handling of the economy.
Look, I know you got to be frustrated. I know. I can taste it.
And in digging into some more of these numbers in our new poll, it showed that 61% of registered voters think that Biden's time in office has been a failure. Voters think that Biden's time in office has been a failure. In our new poll, it showed that 61% of registered voters think that Biden's time in office has been a failure. With only 39% saying success. And so these numbers do not look good for President Biden.
You're horrible! You're horrible! You're horrible!
And we should be saying, Crooked Joe, you're fired. Get out of here. You're fired. You're incompetent. You're incompetent. Get out of here. You're destroying our nation. Get the hell out of here. You're destroying our country, Joe. He doesn't have a clue. He doesn't even know. He doesn't know he's destroying it. He has no clue.
You're hurting me! Just don't lift me. You're hurting me! Ow! 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 Help! Help!
And hit the road, Jack. We hope you don't come back no more. But I think it's rather interesting that the new polling, and this was CNN giving this poll, so I believe it's much worse than what they're portraying. But how much time we got to the break? Okay, I got time for this one right here. See what you
need to see.
What a mess.
During campaign stops, former President Trump is asking the old question, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And Trump has now gotten a response from President Biden, who says, quote, well, Donald, I'm glad you asked that question, man, because I hope everyone in the country takes a minute to think back to what it was like in March of 2020. Common sense would like to rewind the clock. In March of 2020, AAA says the average price of gas was $1.99 a gallon. Today it's $3.53. Mortgage rates in March 2020 averaged 3.29%. Today it's 7.2%. Food up 25%. Rent 22% up. Credit card debt 47% up. In 4 years, the illegal immigration population has gone up by 8 to 9 million. Homelessness, crime also up. In fairness, some things are down, like test scores, arrests, and national pride.
What a mess.
I agree. It's a mess. What's going to happen, we don't know, but I believe there's a lot of people that have a concern, and rightfully so, because it seems like, I don't know what you're thinking if you're like me, but it looks intentional. Okay, the border is too wide open. It's intentional. Why are they pouring in? Is it because, well, at the end of the day, when they redo the census, this is going to gain congressional seats for the blue states, because being sanctuary states and sanctuary cities, and they're pouring in all these illegals, they're going to try to somehow count them and give them more congressional seats in the House. And don't forget, it's the House that controls the money. So if they control the House, they control the checkbook.
This is your Fact Check moment by Macil Duncan Radio. Did you know Rules for Radicals was written by Saul Alinsky? He dedicated the book to Satan. He said the first successful rebellion ever was when he took 1/3 of the angels from hell, from heaven to hell. Here are the 8 things. He said if you can control health care, create poverty, increase the debt unsustainable, control all guns, then put people on welfare, control education, and keep religion out of the public square, and create, number 8, a class welfare state, then you can control any country. These 8 things are in the Rules for Radical book that was nothing but satanic jargon. Be wise, my friends, because he trained Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and many others you deem as leftist heroes. Check it out. This is a Fact Check by Macil Duncan. Hello, friends. This is Macil Duncan, radio host of the Macil Duncan Radio Show. Check out my new book, Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith. In my book, I talk about the mountain of bitterness, the mountain of division, how to deal with the mountain of fear, the 12-hour anger limit, how you can have peace in a troubled world. Check out my...
Well, friends, I want to continue and play this little clip for you by The Revolution is Going to Happen. See what you think.
And I don't think it's Democrats and Republicans. I think that's a stage show. I think it is the elites and the people.
It's a populace and like a class war, like you say. Populism is easily hijacked by demagogues.
Yes.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be dark.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be fascism or Nazism.
Yes.
It was the populist movement in our country in 1903 that got rid of the Gilded Age, and we got the 40-hour work week. We ended child labor. We got women the vote. We got the Sherman Antitrust Act passed, and we made corporations to pay taxes for the first time. We're seeing a revolution in this country that's going to happen. You can't have a situation. 57% of the people in this country can't put their hands on $1,000. If the country can't put their hands on 57% of the people in this country, 57% of the people in this country can't put their hands on $1,000 if they have an emergency. 54% of the people in this country are not making enough money to pay for basic human needs. And there's going to be a revolution, and is it going to be captured by dark regressive forces, or are we going to be able to keep it as an expression of idealism?
Well, that is a RFK Jr. interview with Glenn Beck, and a little snippet of it. Now, that's an interesting thing because he said that 57% of Americans cannot put their hands on $1,000 in the midst of an emergency. That means when cars are tore up, you have an illness, you need doctor care, medicines, or a family member or a friend you might want to help out. When emergencies happen, say you got a kid in college, and 57% of Americans can't even get their hands on $1,000. There's a problem. And you can blame anybody you want to, but the bottom line, I think a lot of people are getting fed up. Now, this is Stephen A. Smith, who is as you know, a man of color, works at ESPN. Even though he tried to walk some of this back, this is what he had to say about the current administration and them going after Donald Trump.
Out there, all you're doing is showing that you're scared you can't beat them on the issues and the merits. That's why he keeps saying it's a political campaign against me. That's why he keeps saying they can't beat me at the election, at the polls. This is the only way they could do it. And if you don't put him in jail, and he still goes from being the presumptive GOP nominee to the official GOP nominee, and he goes to the polls, even though he was going to whine about winning and being rigged again, you have given more fodder to that argument, which means we'll never have peace in this country, because tens of millions of people see what extent the other side is willing to go through just to keep him out of office, because they can't beat him on their own merits. And they're going to say, hey, you trumped this up against him again, and we'll have no peace. when all you got to do is figure out a way to beat them on the issues. But you haven't been able to do it.
That's Stephen A. Smith. Now, Stephen A. Smith has another more colorful moment.
All you Democrats out there are walking around acting like it's somebody else's fault that in the year 2024, you're begging a soon-to-be 82-year-old incumbent to run for re-election and win for you because you haven't had a damn soul that can take them. 4 indictments, 91 counts, 2 impeachments, civil suits against them, elevating above $400 million. And he is whipping y'all ass.
Now that's Stephen A. Smith. That's a Democrat telling the Democrats. Now, I'm sorry if you don't like the colorful language, but I think you get the picture. So Trump, his success it's just growing. And here's another comment on the polls that just broke today.
Our new poll, which was conducted by SSRS, finds Trump is leading Biden, who has ample work to do with his base and with independent voters who are breaking to his GOP rival. In a head-to-head race, 49% of voters say they'd pick Trump for president, compared to 43% for Biden. That's a 9-point Trump advantage with independent voters. And add in third-party candidates, and Trump's lead jumps even more. He has 42% to Biden's 33%.
Hello. When you add in the independents, let me read them for you. You know, because they act like these people are going to cut. No, Trump's numbers didn't move. It's Biden's. When you add in all the numbers, Trump is at 42%. Biden drops to 33%. Kennedy at 16%. West is at 4%. And Jill Stein is at 3%. And that's why I told you earlier in the show, I thought Jill Stein was 2 to 3%. That's what she garnered when she ran in 2016. And Hillary Clinton blamed Jill Stein for her losing some battleground states because of that 3%. But look at this. Donald Trump, this is the recent poll. CNN just put this out. When you add all the parties in, Donald Trump is at 42%, Joe Biden 33%, Kennedy at 16%, West, the crazy man, at 4%, and Jill the Stein Green Party at 3%. And she just got arrested over the weekend, by the way, because she's desperate for news, so she went to Washington University and got involved in a melee with the police and got herself arrested. So interesting. What do you think, my friends? I mean, there's a lot of talk out there. Now, the polling is got a lot of folks baffled, and rightfully so. Let's see if I can pull one of my Here it is. One American News. Now, again, I read this earlier. Do you know Biden right now is the least popular president in the past 70 years, according to this poll? He's below Nixon and Carter. Now, let me explain something. You know, Nixon won his first term very handedly, okay? And don't forget, he ran against Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and then they took out Kennedy. You know, we don't know who the they is still. That's never been... You know, they've suppressed the records, and that's always when the government goes, shh, you can't know who's on Epstein Island, shh, you can't know who killed Kennedy, shh, you can't know, about the transgender shooter and the manifesto in Nashville, and they keep doing the shush. That tells you things aren't fitting the narrative that they want you and I to see. But Nixon won re-election by the largest number, and especially percentage, of any president. He was the most popular president, but then they used Watergate. And if you go study about Watergate, of the 5 people arrested, 4 of them were trained at Langley through CIA ops. 4 of the 5. Just thought I'd tell you. Sounds like a plant to me. But getting back to the main story here, a new poll has revealed that the United States President Joe Biden is the least popular commander-in-chief in the last 70 years, behind Jimmy Carter and Richard Nixon. And the Gallup poll has found that he is down to 38.7% job approval rating for the first quarter of 2024. And this is takes him down as the most unpopular president in 70 years. Wow. So Joe Biden, and no matter all the stuff he's trying to do to create the attention off him, and also 92% of Americans say right now the main interest in the upcoming election is the economy. So with all that they're trying to do to distraction, because don't you have to ask yourself, do you find it a little bit amusing? And I guess amusing is not the best word, but interesting. How's that? That just all of a sudden, we had all this Palestinian marching on our college campuses and these takeovers. And all it's done, it's created a lot of this is backfiring on the Democratic Party, because what it is forcing right now is the Democrats are being forced to understand they have now made their choice. They've made their bed, they got to lay in it by denouncing or not supporting, if you will, Israel. They didn't so much denounce Israel, but they've not really shown to be, to me, 100% ally of Israel. They're trying to act like they're in the middle, like saying, well, there's two sides to every story. Okay, when you start that crap, you're telling your ally, okay, I don't have your back. I kind of do, but I kind of don't. Savvy? So Israel is in a situation where they're having to look around and make sure everyone is who they say they are, per se. And so I would not be surprised if Israel, if Trump is not elected, if Biden does get another 4 terms, they're going to be, of course, as we've talked about before, Revelations, biblical times. But I just want you to think with me, all the Palestinian uprising, boom, it just happened across the nation just organically. Oh, no, it was funded. It's been well planned. I personally believe it ties into these border crossings. I believe a lot of these kids, their sleeper cells strategically planned across the country, and I think they'll be triggered. And I think a lot of these presidents, and I can see why they made the call, even though it disturbs me, by canceling commencement services and canceling classes, because they're thinking, I don't want to be the president that witnessed the massacre, So here's the one thing: classes are pretty much done now. Finals are pretty much over. So by emptying the classroom and even though they did the virtual learning, basically what they gave them no audience. Now they're getting the media, but their fellow peers and the people they wanted to bully, by keeping them at home, it may have been a good strategy. As much as it bothered me, I think they should have removed them forcibly to allow the good kids to go to school. But what it's made them do is sit there and realize, okay, we just won't look at you. And I wish the media would quit covering them. But the bottom line is, in Washington University, I've shared this with you. I played the clip where Jill Stein got arrested, the Green Party president. They arrested over 100 people, but only 24, which is about 24 people, were students. The rest were non-students. So that's 3 out of 4 at that route, and that it's pretty much easy to say in the Washington case, were not students. So they're on private property, government property if it's federally funded, or private property if it's a private school. A lot of these schools across the country, and they're being occupied by non-students. So the non-students look like they're the agitators, the organizers, and the funders of this. And here's the other interesting thing one of the outlets brought up. Do you know, thanks to COVID, a lot of these kids that are graduating college did not get their senior graduation, and now some of them are not getting their college graduation. Can you imagine? Because I walked the aisle. I got to graduate from high school. I got to graduate from college. And I got to graduate from my seminary. So I walked 3 times and was able to have my parents there, my family and friends. Some of these kids have yet to experience what it's like to graduate, throw your hat in the air with all your classmates and celebrate what all you've went through. The kids that went through COVID and now are going through this Palestinian shutdown. It's not sitting well with America. I think a lot of Americans are going to be very upset, and I think this is going to be one to pay out over the decades. I believe these liberal schools that have allowed this and been spineless, I think you're going to pay for it in the days and decades to come. I think a lot of folks will say, don't send the kid there. Don't you remember what they did? Don't send my grandkid there. I've got a fund, and you wait and see. I'll bet you there's some provisos and some wills going on as we speak. I have a college fund for my grandson, my granddaughter, but they cannot attend these certain schools. I will not allow my funds to go to these particular schools. And rightfully so. If you're somebody with a college fund, you might want to put an addendum to your will that your child, you will not allow your funds, your hard-earned funds, to go to one of these schools that hates America and hates Israel. Just a thought. Just a thought. So as we start looking at some of that, Israel has been under attack, as you guys know, and Netanyahu is being accused of stuff. So here's a report from Israel I found interesting, and I think you will too. Check it out. This is CBN News replay.
Shalom, and welcome to the All Israel News Minute. It is the last day of Passover here in Israel, which is a national and religious holiday. It's quite quiet here. Here are the top stories for today, April 29th. In the last-ditch effort to avoid a military offensive in Rafah, a high-level Egyptian delegation held talks with Israeli officials to discuss a potential hostage deal with Hamas. However, the talks ended with Israel warning that this is the last chance for a ceasefire agreement before launching the long-planned operation with the goal to destroy the remaining battalions of Hamas and to free the hostages. Hamas is supposed to give an answer to this extraordinary generous offer by this evening. The International Criminal Court, ICC, in The Hague is preparing to issue arrest warrants against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi over supposed war crimes in Gaza against the terror group Hamas. In response, the Israeli Prime Minister's office, together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, are coordinating efforts on multiple fronts to block this. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators at UCLA, the University of California, Los Angeles, resorted to violence, breaching security barriers and engaging in physical altercations with pro-Israel counter-protesters. The university condemned the unacceptable breach of its long-standing tradition of peaceful protests, highlighting the concerning trend of anti-Israel, anti-Semitic protests on campuses across the U.S. nation. Thank you for tuning in to the All Israel News Minute. For more updates and stories, visit us at allisrael.com.
So allisrael.com, if you want to check out that news source, giving it from their perspective. Everyone wants to ban Israel or talk bad about Israel. You get it right from the horse's mouth, and CBN News had a link to that. So it's called All Israel News. I don't know what you're thinking, but they've made an arrest warrant for there's a group that has anyway for Netanyahu, and I think the interesting thing too is that Chuck Schumer, who is a Jew from New York, tried to issue about 2 weeks ago an initiative trying to get Netanyahu to step down and then elect a new leader. I find that very interesting, and I wonder how the Jews of New York feel about Chuck Schumer right now. He's been silent. He's not spoken out against these protests. He's just been, and that's amazing. Schumer is such a big mouth. He has so much opinion about everything else. But he's been pretty much silent on these campus protests and this stuff across the nation here at the moment. So I think that's very interesting. Well, Coach Tuberfield, I like to call him, he's an Alabama senator, has just gone on the record talking about illegals in our military. And he's asking the secretary, because here's the thing, I don't know if you know this. If you're on American soil, you don't have to be a citizen to be sworn into our military. I don't know if you knew that. Here's Tommy Tuberfield asking a question.
General, are we taking illegals into our military? Illegals into our military? Illegals into our military? Are we taking illegals into our military in the Army?
I think what we're taking it, you have to be a legal permanent resident or a resident of our country to enlist.
Did you catch the little word salad? A permanent resident or a resident of our country. Sabe? Let's listen to the squirming general, which is appointed by the Biden administration.
A permanent resident or a resident of our country to enlist in the Army, Senator.
Do you know, Mr. Secretary, are we taking illegals in the Army?
As the chief said, you have to be a lawful permanent resident or a resident of the United States.
Did you catch that? A lawful permanent resident or a resident of the... So they just completely... Can y'all... Please pay attention and listen to this word salad. I'm going to play this thing from the beginning.
General, are we taking illegals into our military in the Army?
I think what we're taking it, you have to be a legal permanent resident or a resident of our country to enlist.
Or a resident. A legal resident or a resident. A resident would label illegal alien. Hello?
In the Army, Senator.
Do you know, Mr. Secretary, are we taking illegals in the Army?
As the chief said, you have to be a lawful permanent resident or a resident of the United States to join the military.
Or a resident. You don't have to be a citizen. You have to be a lawful citizen or a resident, meaning you're sleeping here, eating here, pooping here. I mean, I hate to be so crude. That's the bottom line.
Resident or a citizen?
Lawful permanent. I'm not the State Department, but lawful permanent resident, I think, is a immigration status that is not full citizenship, yeah. But it is certainly not an undocumented person.
Yeah. Well, I would just hope that we would take.
Now she tried to get a little more specific. Certain. She goes. Let's listen to again what Sweet Cheek says.
Permanent resident, I think, is a immigration status that Department, but lawful permanent resident.
Resident or a citizen?
Lawful permanent. I'm not the State Department, but
I'm not the State Department, but
lawful permanent resident, I think, is a immigration status that is not full citizenship, yeah. But it is.
It's an immigration status that's not full citizenship. What's that mean? What does that mean?
Certainly not an undocumented person.
Yeah. Well,
So certainly not an undocumented person. Well, of course not, because if you are going to join the Army, if you will, you're going to be documented, but you're not a citizen. Savvy? They're not really answering Tuberfield's question, but they both look extremely nervous.
I would just hope that we would take people that love this country. I know there's probably a lot of people come across the border that's going to end up loving our country. I can understand that. But, having people that really understand, what that flag means is pretty important in our military. So I would hope that we would really consider the options, if it came down to that.
Thank you, Senator Tuberfield, former coach of Auburn. Pastor salute. Great answer to that. I think a lot of us wonder, is there nefarious ways in our military? I think that's been a discussion for some time. But we're concerned because the recruitment numbers have been down. We've talked about this. Our military now is at the all-time low. They've not hit recruitment levels in any of the 3 years that Biden's been president. So if your recruitment if your recruitment's down, I think you might turn to illegal aliens and bribe them, saying, "Hey, because if I'm not mistaken, you serve 8 years in the Army. It's automatic citizenship. If I'm not mistaken, I'll double check that. But there is a pathway to citizenship through serving in the military. Now, the lieutenant governor for Virginia, Winsome Sears, she worked her way to citizenship through the military. And she is an outstanding lieutenant governor, very conservative. So I'm not saying people that come to this country can't become great citizens and great assets to the country. And it all depends on what you call an asset. Look at Omar from Minnesota. I wouldn't call her an asset. I'm not going to tell you what I just thought, but I'll just leave it at that. There's a lot of people out there you're going, man, I don't know why they're here. Why would you come to this country? Because they seem to just hate everyone and everything. And they're always angry. You know, did liberals ever have a good day other than trying to make fun of Trump? I mean, all they do is celebrate when they go after Trump. Can you just have a good day without politics? I had a great day Saturday. Me and my wife, the best goof-off day we've had in a while. We went out to lunch. We went shopping and went and hung out and just had a goof-off day for about 5 hours. We haven't done that in a while. It felt good. I had no things to do for the church. Well, I ended up picking up some stuff for the church because that's what I end up doing all the time. I bought stuff for our thing. But other than that, I just had a good time. Just me and Jude's hanging out, laughing, cutting up, driving around. Some personal errands we've been meaning to get to. And I've thought about that. Why don't we do that more often in our lives? Because we've allowed ourselves to get so controlled, I think, by these I guess, mind controls. Now, I brought this up yesterday, a passage in Romans chapter 12, verse 2. It says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Now, if you're going to renew your mind, you've got to be understanding that transformation. It's a battle. Your mind and my mind, that's the battlefield. That's why they go through such great lengths, I believe, through Disney now, trying to do remakes, try to do cartoons, try to implant as much of their very liberal and left-wing Marxist agenda into the children. Because I think they know the classics as we know them. Even though right now they're not doing well at the box office, all these crazy cartoons and these remake cartoons they're doing now, they're going to get replayed eventually. And it may be your great-grandchildren that look back and say, oh, that's what that was popular, even though it didn't hit the box office charts really well. Let me just give you an example. Top Gun, the second one by Tom Cruise, still smashing records, okay, just by being replayed. It's one of the most popular, iconic films of all time. No agenda. It was nothing but had about a pilot, his crew. They had a mission. They loved their country, and they did their duty, etc. You know, you didn't see that. Everybody was waiting for the moment. There was no queer scenes in there. There was no transgender scenes. No implication of any of the modern woke agenda. It was just a clean heart, America-loving movie, and it blew the ratings out the roof. America is panting for that. America wants just good, clean entertainment, good, clean opportunities, without all the extra stuff. But see, the woke people have decided, let's take over media. Let's become mind melters. And let's see if we can't get into the minds of the people and the children. And you're sitting there watching Freevee TV or Tubi or one of these free TVs, and you may be watching the Andy Griffith Show, Happy Days, some old sitcom that has pretty much a clean agenda. But then the commercials come in, and next thing you know, you're watching Bob doing tonsil tuck with another guy. And you go, I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear that. So me and my wife keep the remote. Bob, it's muted. We don't look at it. I mean, a lot of folks have gotten to where, and I've got friends that have told me they don't even let their kids watch those things. They've gotten to where I've got a family member that pre-tapes all the cartoons, and they make sure they take all the commercials out, and they preview every show. If there's any scene, they just don't let their child see that one. Now you're saying that takes a lot of attention. It sure does. And I challenge you, parents and grandparents, be careful not allowing a television to babysit your kids like you used to. Just to let your kids sit hours. You think they're being quiet, and it's giving you a break. But what's in those commercials and what's in those things could affect their child's brains for decades. It's really that. I take it that serious. I know some people say, Macil, aren't you being a little bit too I think not. And I really am concerned about the future, and I'm concerned about what's going on, and that's just who I am. Now, this is Robert F. Kennedy. Is the Democratic Party corrupt? And this is his answer, because remember, he tried to run as a Democrat and challenge Joe Biden. They would not allow him. They forced him to go independent. He created his own party called We the People. And you've got to admire the guy for saying, listen, I'm not going to be silenced. I'm going to keep trying to run. This is Robert F. Kennedy.
The reason I ran is because I saw the Democratic Party, my country, but also the Democratic Party, departing from a lot of the values that I was raised with. People call Kennedy Democrat Party. I think if my father, my uncle, if you outlined their top 20 policy priorities, that I would check the box for each one of them. And, I'm kind of a traditional Kennedy, a Democrat, traditional liberal. I believe in free speech. I believe in the Constitution of the United States. I believe that corporations should not dominate our government. My inclination is to be against war and very suspicious of the rise of the military-industrial complex. I'm an environmentalist. I think particularly reducing the toxic exposures to our children, improving the sustainability of our soils, protecting water, clean air, all of those issues are Purple Mountain's majesty. Those were the centerpieces of my career. Environmental justice was another. Civil rights was a priority for the Democratic Party, and personal freedom. And the party has I think, particularly since the Citizens United case in 2008, the party has become the party not of the middle class, which it was when I was growing up. It was the cops and the firefighters, factory workers, but it has become the party of Wall Street and the party of pharma and the party of the military-industrial complex. And when I ran, I was really, I would say, triggered to run during COVID when we saw the censorship happen and Democratic politicians sign on to censorship of speech in this country for the first time in our history. And the support of the Democratic Party for the war in Ukraine, which I see as a contrived war and an immoral war. And that really prompted me to run. But I ran as a Democrat, and my intention was to try to call the Democratic Party back to summons it back to its core values. What I found was, and my campaign manager during the outset of the campaign was Dennis Kucinich, who's run for president a couple times himself and was kind of the conscience of the Democratic Party, a core figure and beloved figure for his integrity, for his...
I know he's hard to listen to, and I feel sorry for him, but I don't know if you realize that Kennedy blames vaccinations for his speech. He had a very clear voice, he said, until he took some vaccines, and that's one reason he goes after Big Pharma, because of his personal health. But so that's just something to keep in mind. But also what broke is the House Speaker was asked, Mike Johnson, and he tells ABC News, I'm not resigning. Evidently, there's still folks out there trying to press this issue, and this is ABC News on Speaker Mike Johnson. See what you think.
Now let's head to Capitol Hill and the renewed calls for House Speaker Mike Johnson to resign. But as he told our Rachel Scott weeks ago, He isn't going anywhere.
What is your response to Republicans who say this move should cost you your job and that if you don't resign, they will try to oust you?
I am not resigning, and it is, in my view, an absurd notion that someone would bring a vacate motion. We are simply here trying to do our jobs. It is not helpful to the cause. It is not helpful to the country.
And so far, Speaker Johnson has stuck to what he told Rachel. He's still standing firm, saying he will not step down. Rachel Scott joins us now. So, Rachel, the House returns back to session later today. All eyes on Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's threatening to oust the Speaker with that motion to vacate. Has Speaker Mike Johnson kind of figured it out? That how to just stand up to the tiny minority who've been causing all this ruckus in the Republican Party.
And not go anywhere.
And not go anywhere. He's going to stay.
Yeah, and this is something that we have seen other speakers, namely Kevin McCarthy, have a really hard time dealing with, right? This right wing of their party, these handful of members get very frustrated when the Republican Speaker of the House reaches across the aisle and works with Democrats who obviously control the Senate and are in the White House. And
so they're making the GOP look like sore losers. It's the media melt mind. But here's the bottom line, and that some of the conservatives are going to get mad at me for this. He passed a bill for the border, and the Senate has refused to take it up. Okay? Now, I know some of you said, well, then what he should not have done is the deal Schumer made. Schumer said, pass us individual packages, one for Gaza, basically one for Israel, a separate one for Ukraine, etc. And then the Senate then gets all the power. See, they can then vote for the one for Israel if they want, the one for the Ukraine, but they can deny passing the one for the border. That's where the rub is. They feel that Speaker of the House, because financial legislation has to start in the House, it's got to have their approval to then be affirmed by the Senate. Savvy? But when the Senate is able to table the border funding, which is being done, it's making the Speaker look like he's not getting anything accomplished. So I think what happened, personally, I think he just got outplayed. Because you got to know, when Pelosi was Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill's, these folks that have the longer pedigree in politics, the Newt Gingrich, even Paul Ryan, who I can't stand, they had been in politics longer, plus they had a war chest. Because they ran and said, hey, I want to be Speaker of the House. They went through the process. They got all this funding. Well, McCarthy did all that and was Speaker of the House, and they ousted him. And in the middle, Speaker Mike Johnson's thrust into being the leader after they could not vote in Scalise, Jim Jordan, and a couple other people. So Mike Johnson goes in, and he is now listed, if you go look, the poorest. What I mean by that, his personal finances, he is the poorest Speaker of the House we've ever had. So being a guy that doesn't have a lot of resources, he doesn't have a war chest built up, he doesn't have probably the lobby, the legal teams, and etc. to fight back. Savvy? I'm just trying to paint an accurate picture. I'm not trying to give any excuses per se. I'm just trying to make you aware, because some folks, all you want to do is be mad and you want to scream at everybody. And if anyone doesn't agree with everything you say, they're bad people. And it's sad that there's some people that are that close-minded on both sides. But I'm just trying to give Mike Johnson the benefit of that doubt. That I think, and that's why I think he said I'm not resigning. Now, you know, am I happy with everything he's done? No, I'm sure not. But I don't know if there's any politician up there you're going to say, like Donald Trump, I do not like Operation Warp Speed. The more I hear about it, I don't like it. I know some of you say, yeah, but if he hadn't done that, the lockdown would have went blah, blah. Bottom line, he helped pass through, whether you want to give him a pass or not, Donald Trump passed through vaccines that were not FDA approved. And they put a proviso they could not be sued. That's not cool. So all these side effects and all these health concerns, and it's coming out by the day, they have legal protection because of Operation Warp Speed. That was Donald Trump. Now, you can get mad or glad, but I'm just being honest with you. That's something, if I had a cup of coffee with the president, I'd tell him, could you please explain to me why, now I realize Dr. Burke and Dr. Fauci and them, they had a heavy influencing factor on him. And if one thing you notice when Donald Trump, his first term, he respected people that had lots of experience, per se. And he seemed to give them that respect. Now, in hindsight, Dr. Burke threw Fauci under the bus, called him a liar, and she also said the virus came to America from China in a box. Those are her words, not mine. So for Dr. Burke, you remember the scarf lady that stood next to Fauci, and Mike Pence, Trump would make a statement and walk away, and those three, Pence, Fauci, and Dr. Burke, did all the talking. So for Burke to write her book, kind of throw Fauci under the bus and admit, she even said we lied to the president. She said we told him flatten the curve. You remember flatten the curve in 2 weeks? We knew that was a lie, but we knew if we could get the country shut down for 2 weeks, these were her words, our friends in the media would put so much pressure on him, he would then shut down the country for a longer extent of time. Savvy? So he was deceived. Okay, she admits to it in her book, and I just, a lot of folks don't mention Dr. Burke anymore. You notice how she's just become irrelevant. What's going to be interesting to see, if Donald Trump wins election, who's he going to really trust this time around? Because he had a lot of folks that talked him into some things. I think all presidents probably have those people that talk you into things. For instance, I believe Kissinger talked Nixon into things, because there's a reason why they turned on Nixon, my friends. Okay, he won re-election by the most popular, but don't forget, in his first term, some of the big things he did. One, he opened trade with China. Was he regretting that? Did Kissinger and him, did he have a little talk afterwards? Some people said, you realize what Kissinger's doing? In his second term was because he saw how popular he was. They knew if he stayed in office, if he wanted to retract any of these policies, he had the power of the people behind him. So they had to make him look like a crook, make him look bad. The other thing that he did, open trade with China, he took us off the gold standard and put us on the petrodollar. That was bringing OPEC to the table. You savvy? I've explained this before, but if you didn't know, that's where your Middle Eastern countries, your Saudi Arabia, he helped make them even richer by bringing OPEC, by calling it the petrodollar, backed by oil, not by gold. And in the same process, we started using environmental protection. So we'd quit drilling in America and start buying oil overseas. See, it made third world countries rich, therefore gave us a control factor, savvy? And put our handprint and footprint in the Middle East. That's one reason they hate us so much, is because our government put a heavy hand on them and their regimes in trade for money and wealth. Okay, this all started, a big chunk of it, under Nixon, with the taking us off the gold standard and the petrodollar. See? So you've got, he opened trade with China, he did the petrodollar, and the third thing he did is he made it legal for pharmacies to advertise on TV. You know, up till Richard Nixon, it was illegal to have all these pharmaceutical ads on TV. And now you can't watch TV without them. And they all have these little disclaimers at the end that this thing can kill you or ruin your life. You know, that real stuff at the end, it's real fast, makes you say, hey, I don't want to buy this stuff. But it was under Nixon, those I think were big three things. He had some other accomplishments. But I wonder if he was doubting any of that and thought, hey, in my second term, because there's something Nixon must have challenged the behind-the-scene proxy people or the puppeteers, and thought, hey guys, I'm pretty popular. I think I can change some, or maybe there's something he wanted done. But we'll never know. But they took him out for a reason. They didn't take him out like they did Kennedy, because I think they knew assassinating two presidents in a row would be a death wish. It'd be hard for America to recover. They took out Kennedy, and the more and more people are seeing, they believe it was CIA that took him out. Okay, you couldn't take out Nixon, so they had to take him out through political suicide. God ruined the guy, even though he had the largest reelection ever of a president. Unreal. You go back and watch it. Tucker Carlson did a great piece on it. So as you're thinking with politics, that's why you go Donald Trump. I'm fascinated with him because he goes against the norm. They've tried to get him out. They tried to ruin him when he first ran. When he came down that escalator, and you've got to be honest about this with me. When Donald Trump came down the escalator, he went from being he was guest appearances in movies, music videos, sitcoms. Everybody wanted Donald Trump. He was a popular billionaire. Everybody loved him. Both sides, Democrats, Republicans, even Jesse Jackson and the NAACP, Rainbow Coalition, all these groups used to cater to Donald Trump, and he was respected. He got all these awards from the different groups such as that. He comes down that escalator representing a conservative group of the country. And immediately, because you understand, they weren't mad at him. They were mad at the people that were behind him. For Hollywood, for the music industry, for everyone to turn on a dime. Again, that goes to show there's so much behind the scenes they don't tell us. I personally think. So he comes down the escalator. He goes down to the border. And if you guys remember, he put on a hat that said, "Make America Great." It was a white hat at the time, not red. It was a white golf hat, "Make America Great." And you could see Trump playing, and he stood at the border. He goes, "I'm going to build a wall." And I don't know if that resonated with the people. Because even back then, people sensed our country was vulnerable. And the more he talked about the wall and national security, the angrier they got. Because, see, Donald Trump is a nationalist. Make America great again. His desire is to make America great. He said, "I'm not against the rest of the world. They should try to make their countries great." He goes, "But by having a strong America, it helps have a strong globe." Savvy? But weakening America so that you can have more of a global reach, that's a suicide mission. Because eventually, once America's gone, we're the last bastion of freedom left in the galaxy. But you can't explain that to some people. They just don't see it. They think if somehow America fell, that somehow their agenda would be better. Communism, they believe, hey, then everyone would be under the same rule. No, the rich would get richer, the poor would get poorer, and we'd basically be indigent servants. But some of you think communism would be great. You think capitalism is bad. And I think the best illustration I have for that is when a college professor said, "Hey, if you guys don't mind, I'm just going to give everybody an A." I don't know, you've probably heard the analogy. And so kids quit coming to class. And the kids that studied hard to get A started slacking off, quit reading the assignments, because it didn't matter if you took the test or not. He was giving everybody an A, and he wanted to prove a point. That by the end of the semester, he had made the lazy person lazier. He had made the achievers lose their desire to achieve. And pretty much everyone dropped in their effort because it didn't matter. Everybody was going to get the same thing. That's what's happening. This generation we're seeing now, they're products of participation trophies. Everyone's a winner. Don't have them lose. You might hurt their feeling. Don't spank them. Don't even do timeout. That might discourage them. I get so, because I've seen some of these parents use your words when the kids, instead of busting their butts when they're out of line. Oh no, we might. And what's happened is you've lost the discipline. Spare the rod, spoil the child. You're seeing some petulant, spoiled children all over campuses across this country doing the wambulance call, saying everything's owed to them, and they think they can go in just like they did at Google, these employees thought, I'm going to go in and we're going to tell the boss what to do. These employees of Google went in and they ended up firing over 50 of them because they damaged property. They did a sit-in for 10 hours thinking they were going to tell the CEO of the company what to do. And here's the common denominator. They were demanding that they defund anything to do with Israel. And they're saying the same thing at Columbia University and et cetera. And this is what's going to come up in the presidential election. It's pretty obvious. For some reason, this is becoming a narrative. It's going to be pro-Israel or not. Now, I remember in Charlotte, North Carolina, when the Democrats voted God out of their platform. Do you guys remember that? That was back when Bush was running, George W. Bush. And the Democrats, and I'm trying to remember who, he beat Al Gore. I'm trying to remember who ran against him the second time, and he won re-election. Kennedy. Is it? Yeah, not Kennedy. I'm sorry. John, the big tall guy. Anyway, the former senator. He became Secretary of State. But anyway, the senator. As I believe that's when we ran. They had the Democrat convention, and I remember watching the news because I was pastoring in Charlotte, North Carolina, that the people across the country were outraged that they voted God out of their platform. So the next day, if you go back and watch, the Democrats brought up a motion to reestablish that God was part of their platform, the Judeo-Christianity God, that is. And they got booed down. And when he took the vote, it was obviously it didn't pass, but he hit the gavel and said, "It's passed. We've put God back in our platform." And the place went nuts. They booed, booed, booed. They did not want, and a majority of them in that room were non-Christians, and they were Muslim. They did not want the Judeo-Christian God of Jesus Christ in the platform of the Democratic Party anymore. They had successfully voted it out, and when they tried to vote it back in, it was booed. But they hit the gavel and said it was back in. Now what's going to be happening with the Democrats is they're not just trying to vote out the God, they want to vote out Israel. Now I bring that up because of the Abraham Accord that's been, Donald Trump brought that in. His son-in-law Jared Kushner and his daughter Ivanka, she is known as Ivanka Trump, but she married Jared Kushner. She's actually Ivanka Kushner. They brought in moving the capital to Jerusalem, or excuse me, not the capital, but moving our embassy, the American embassy, to Jerusalem to respect the capital city of Jerusalem, and Trump did that. Several presidents had promised, but he actually did that. Well, then he also brought in the Abraham Accord, and what was the Abraham Accord? That's the belief that you take all the seeds of Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, and Judeo-Christians that were birthed out of the Jewish faith, the way they see it. So they have in Dubai, I've mentioned before, the 3 temples. They got the mosque, they got the Jewish synagogue, and they've got the Catholic Church with no cross. You can go worship the God of Abraham in any of those 3. They're all right next to each other. Savvy? So this one world government, and they're calling it Chrislam, trying to combine Christianity and Muslim, Chrislam. Okay? It's got a lot of mixed reviews, but of course, me being a Christian, that's to me an oxymoron. You can't combine the two. They don't go together. It's oil and water. But here's the deal. What we're going to start seeing, I believe, as we head towards the election, the Democrat Party is going to capitulate, just like they did, and they're going to waffle whether to vote out their allegiance to the Jewish state as our ally. And if they do that, even if they try to vote it back, if they capitulate, which they've already leaned as doing, it's going to create a huge controversy globally. And the reason I bring that up is because you have NATO, but a new group's been forming since 2010 called BRICS. Remember BRICS? I've mentioned many times on my show. You got Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, etc. But Brazil's not that big, but look what's happening in Brazil right now. Russia, India, and China. Those are three large armies. If they create BRICS, which was initially economic unity, if they create a military unity, if you will, and Israel is forced in the middle, it says that Israel is going to be friendless at the end times. If the Democratic Party is on their way of officially ending support for Israel, because I think what's happening across the country, they're doing mind manipulation games. Even though I've proven to you they have more non-students than students in these rallies, according to the reports on TV. And they're not doing a lot of searches, because once they do searches and they have arrests, they have to identify who's been arrested. And they don't want to do that either, because it kind of ruins their mantra. They want the world to think that American youth hate Israel. Okay? And they want the world to think that they hate their own country. That would make it really ripe for the mind manipulation to get sleeper cells to then attack our country, and even within or from without. A lot of confusion. Who's the author of confusion? That's Satan. But you've got Israel making all these advances militarily that can't be explained. Isn't it interesting that the dome, and some people thought it was the hand of God, all the missiles that Iran shot, it said 95 to 99% did not get through the dome. But when Israel shot back at Iran...
So here, once again, we were seeing that frustration.
Big
Believe
difference.
it or not, guys, we've been talking about this idea of Marjorie Taylor Greene forcing this vote against Speaker Johnson for 30-plus days.
Sorry. I accidentally hit that out of excitement. All right, I've rambled on. Let's, how much time we got? This is CBN News talking about God and politics. See what you think, because this guy has an opinion on whether he thinks Jesus should be involved with Christians, and there's a lot of opinion out there.
Election just a few months away, many Americans are already exhausted about the toxic and divisive political culture. Michael Ware, founder and president and CEO of the Center for Christianity and Public Life, offers a new way of thinking about political involvement rooted in Jesus' teaching. It's something he writes about in his new book, The Spirit of Our Politics, and Michael joins me now. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, so good to be with you.
Okay, so first of all, you say that part of the problem is not that we take politics too seriously, but that we take politics seriously in all the wrong ways. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think politics has become this forum that we go for seeking personal expression and emotional satisfaction, and really to get our spiritual needs met. I think politics is a bad place to look for getting spiritual needs met. It's especially problematic for Christians who get their spiritual needs met elsewhere. And when our identity, when our spiritual needs are met in Jesus, in life with Jesus, that should mean and can mean that we're freed up to go to politics for the limited but important purpose of self-governance, of loving our neighbor, of seeking the public good. And that's what I advocate for in the book.
Yeah, so far I like that. I think this guy's spot on. Let's listen a little further.
And you also say in the book, you introduce this term, political therapeutic deism. What does that mean?
Political therapeutic deism. This guy made up his own words and book. Pretty cool stuff. See what you think.
And why is it bad?
Yeah, so political therapeutic deism is basically a set of beliefs that uses religion and religious imagery and language to provide supplemental support, sort of divine affirmation for one's political views. It leverages religion, leverages Christian concepts to support people's political beliefs and assertions that may or may not have anything to do with Christianity at all. It's problematic for a number of reasons. One, it undermines our Christian witness. It undermines the knowledge we have as Christians about reality when we're misusing the authority we have to provide that kind of supplemental support for our politics. It also leads to a more moralistic political debate than we should have. It leads to a debate that is about that makes every political disagreement about good and evil, when our politics is really more complicated than that.
Absolutely. And you talk also about spiritual formation in the book. Can you address the crucial connection between discipleship to Jesus and political involvement?
Yes. This book is grounded in the conviction that the kind of people we are has much to do with the kind of politics we have.
So I think it's a good point. The kind of people we are the kind of politics that we have. And you've got to admit, you've heard the term birds of a feather flock together. You do tend to want to vote for people that look like you, smell like you, drive like you, live like you, or the closest person that would fit your mold of lifestyle. And it's hard to look beyond. And I think that's what's interesting, and I think that's why they're afraid of multiple parties. Can you imagine if we had 3 or 4 parties to choose from in this country? If it wasn't just Republican and Democrat, what if we had the Scooby-Doo and the Yaka Yaka, whatever? And you had 4 choices for president, 4 parties to pick from for your Senate and your Congress seats. I personally think it would force more communication, because what the very thing they're upset with Mike Johnson about would be something you would want to hear more of parties working together. Right now, with only a 2-party system, you get the Democrats mad or the Republicans mad because they break their allegiance, if you will, and they work together. Now, every so often, they like to call it a joint recommendation or joint resolution, etc. But I personally wish we had more parties, at least one more, because I think it would hold the group honest. But there's such a behind-the-scenes stuff I don't think we'll ever know. Just like I said, they hide the Epstein list. They hide so much stuff from us because they don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want us to know. And I think that's one reason they hated Donald Trump, because not only did he with his executive orders, he brought the economy back and went against some of their pet peeves and their stuff. Donald Trump arrested more pedophiles and more sexual assault folks than anybody. He shut down the border. He went after child sex trafficking. He went after things that wasn't cool to go after. And by doing so, they have really come after him. But if you look in just New York alone, I've mentioned this before, it was so debauched. I mean, the Anthony Weiner laptop we thought was bad. And you remember that was before Trump was in. But the Anthony Weiner laptop and his wife, Huma Abedin, worked for Hillary Clinton. And all the sexual stuff. And then 10 policemen committed suicide that saw the laptop. Seriously? But anyway. And then Hillary Clinton runs for president against Trump. And when anything was brought about her or Bill Clinton, that was lies. But then they bring up things about Donald Trump that couldn't be proven as if it was fact. See, the double play. But here's the thing. Donald Trump's from New York. And when you saw Lanier go down, and you saw Harvey Weinstein go down, Epstein go down, Ellen's show stopped. You remember the Wayfair incident and Walmart and the order of children online through Wayfair, that debacle. Then you started seeing all these things. The John of God, who was a friend of Oprah, he gets arrested and multiple counts of sexual. Rapper Kelly. You're seeing P. Diddy coming out. And a lot of that stuff went back to New York. Bill Cosby in New York. And if you go look, someone has one of the old Hollywood type things in New York where the rich people lived. Did you know in walking distance there in New York, you had Bill Cosby, the Clintons, Epstein, Weinstein, Lanier, all these sexual deviant-minded people that are known for going to the Epstein Island and stuff. They didn't just get on the Lolita Express and go to Epstein to go Perv City. New York was a hub to it too. And in that sections of New York where they all lived, and a lot of just sexual harassment and rape and things happened. Don't forget, Donald Trump was once a Democrat, and he lived in New York. I believe that's why they're going after him so hard. I think this is their shot to New York is trying to get back the elites, that is, of New York, because he wrecked their secret little party. Think about it. And then that elite group of women that just dropped the rape charges on Weinstein, the convicted Hollywood mogul and producer. Now, he's still going to be in jail because of all the other things. But why would they do that? I think it's to try to stir up Weinstein in the news, so at the same time Trump's on trial in New York, to try to make them both look, two perverts. Just try to throw any mud they can get to stick on Trump. It's interesting. Interesting. Well, let's go back to a couple of things in the news here. Some of you guys like it when I go and just try to tell you some things that's happening. Stephen Miller warns Biden needs presidential immunity. Could be tried for war crimes and human trafficking. And this is true. Former White House senior advisor Stephen Miller has warned that Joe Biden should hope that the Supreme Court rules in favor of Donald Trump's request for presidential immunity. In an interview on Newsmax, Miller argued that while Biden may be hoping that the Supreme Court rules against Trump's request, he would benefit from a precedent of presidential immunity in a case of his own prosecution for crimes committed while in office. If they say there's no immunity for official acts, the moment Joe Biden leaves office, every single red city and red state DA in the country can charge him for financial crimes related to illegal student loan bailouts, charge him with war crimes, related deaths of service members overseas, human trafficking, drugs, smuggling, election fraud, election interference. The counts could go on and on and on. And that's what will happen to every president after this. If they successfully take out Donald Trump somehow through this Supreme Court battle, any president and any former president is now up for legal battle. It's going to be rather interesting. And then who's going to want to run? Well, that'll open the door even more for someone with tons of money, because you'll have to have tons of money because you're going to have tons of lawyers. Savvy? His comment came as the Supreme Court continues to hear arguments about Donald Trump's presidential immunity claim, which, if upheld, would bring an end to the lawfare campaign led by Special Prosecutor Jack Smith. Trump's lawyers have argued that no president in American history has ever faced criminal prosecution, underscoring the blatantly political nature of the Democratic lawfare campaign. In 234 years of American history, no president ever faced criminal prosecution for his official acts. Until 19 days ago, no court had ever addressed this immunity from such prosecution that exists. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens. Well, just real quick, Italian Prime Minister Meloni will run in June European elections. Wants to bring together the center-right forces and send left into opposition. This is political strategy here. Check what's going on over in Europe. And you can catch this whole full article at the Gateway Pundit. As the June European elections approach, all countries see a flurry of maneuvering by political forces in order to get the best possible outcome. In Italy, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has officially joined as candidate, announcing it on the stage of the Pragmatic Conference of her Brothers of Italy party. Meloni run in the European elections to boost support for her party, but she'll not take up a seat if elected. Now, this is what's interesting. The June 6 through 9 European Parliament vote is seen as a key test of strength for her conservative coalition. We want to do in Europe what we did in Italy, create a majority that brings together the center-right forces and send the left into opposition, Maloney told cheering party faithful at a party conference in the coastal city in EU. Now, Maloney has I don't know if you know, he's very conservative on a lot of issues, but she is a practicing lesbian. So a lot of folks take that as a challenge to a conservative in Europe and a conservative in America definitely has a little different touch to it. But her party is Italy's mostly popular with 27% of support according to recent polls, ahead of the opposition Democratic Party that's around 20%, and the left-leaning Five Star Movement on 6%. Now I bring this up because they have multiple parties in these other countries, and it forces them to politic better. Here in America, we just have the two parties, and a lot of times we all wonder, do we just have a uniparty where they all just kind of get along and make deals, and we're not told. But it's an interesting tactic that they're wanting to push conservatism, and we'll have to see what they view conservatism, though, in Europe, and some of that would be more nationalism and not globalism. That's the thing I would like to see. Telegram hit 1 billion users, and I bring that up to remind you that social media is going to be something to watch in the next 3 to 4 months. Facebook probably is going to reactivate their fact checkers. You're going to start seeing more and more Facebook jail time, etc. It always ran right before a presidential election. The Facebook jail police come out and they start. So be watching my show on X and on Rumble, because I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble just having a different opinion from the narrative. But you've got a lot of folks that are going to Telegram, a lot of patriot people. A lot of those in the Q movement, for instance, are in Telegram. Now, I quit using Telegram. I just can't navigate it. I'm going to be honest. It's harder for me to navigate. But if Telegram, which is Russian-backed, the guy that owns and created Telegram is from Russia. TikTok is from China. Facebook is from America. Whether you like those breakdowns or not, they're all three global, but those three governments control the information. Okay? Now, Telegram acts like they're not in control by the Russian government, but I don't know. It's just like Facebook tries to say that that they're not controlled by the American government. I think we all know that's not true. Well, don't forget, former Barack and Hillary Clinton's senior policy advisor was charged with sex crimes just a few weeks ago. The senior policy advisor in former President Barack Obama's administration facing potential jail time for crimes involving children. And the Daily Mail brought this up. His name is Rahman Shai, H-A-Y. He was arrested by British police in Bedfordshire in late February, and the court documents obtained by the Daily Mail revealed that this Representative Shai is accused of arranging the commission of a child sex offense. He's also been charged with possession of 2 Category C incident images of children and possessing a prohibited child image with him on his person. And so he was specifically worked as a senior role in the U.S. Treasury Department 2008 to 2014, advising officials in counting financial terrorism or fighting financial terrorism. So he's they're at least trying to paint him as a pedophile. Let's give the innocent till proven guilty mentality. I want to remind you that criminal prosecutors of illegal immigrants stopped when coronavirus hit. This is a Daily Wire article, and only 4% under Biden have been criminally charged compared to when Donald Trump was in office. Donald Trump convicted many more and arrested many more illegal crossings. Biden, out of the millions that have crossed, only 4%. Are you ready for the number? Only 11,000 in 3 years have been technically arrested and processed for crossing the border illegally under Biden. You can go to Daily Wire and get the rest of that. How are we doing on time? Wrapping out here. NIH leader exposed for recruiting faith leaders to push dangerous COVID shot to followers. We're finding out that a former leader of the National Institute of Health is being exposed for weaponizing faith and prayer to push the so-called vaccine. We have uncovered a video of Dr. Francis Collins openly pushing the vaccine as God's answer to his prayers, and he admits part of the plan was to use faith leaders across the country to make the case for the COVID shot. Now, Dr. James Thorpe and his wife Maggie uncovered the disturbing plot to use people's love of God, faith, and prayer to be duped into following the government's tyrannical orders to take the jab. Dr. James Thorpe unveils the in-depth scheme in this edition of Stinchfield. Now, if you want to go to Stinchfield, if you remember, he was the press secretary before Sarah Huckabee Sanders. He didn't last but maybe 6 months, the first part of Trump's deal. If you remember, he was a little white fella, and he, like I said, he didn't last long. Sarah Huckabee Sanders stepped in, and then she was a rock star. I think he always, was a little intimidated by that, and I can understand. He probably felt that he was pushed out the door because nobody wants a job for 6 months. But he's landed on his feet, does a great job with his podcast, and very, very informative. Macron is becoming a national danger. Opposition torches unpopular French president after his warmongering puts nuclear weapons arsenal on the table for European defense. So some people are seeing him as a problem. You might check that article out in the Gateway Pundit. James Carville, you remember the guy that said it's the economy, stupid, triggered by new CNN poll, curses at young voters in angry rant because Trump is winning over the young voters and they're losing their edge with the ethnic voters, the young black men especially, and young Hispanic men, and Hispanic voters in general are leaning to Trump. They're also gaining ground in Arabic American and Asian American. So Trump is gaining ground, and he's also gained some ground in the women's vote. Now they're trying to bring abortion back as one of their flag statements, but that's a Supreme Court decision that's already been made. So it's going to be hard. Other than the fact they're going to say, well, Donald Trump put 3 conservatives on the Supreme Court, which he did. And let me just throw this in, if you're thinking with me long term. If Donald Trump were to get back in 2024, there's probably a good chance that Clarence Thomas would retire and allow Donald Trump to replace him with another conservative to make sure we have strong conservatives on the bench for decades to come. That's just, and I don't see anywhere, and I checked on this. If I was Donald Trump, I would make somebody else the Chief Justice. Now that may start a precedent that presidents can then pick a Chief Justice, but the president does, I think, get to name the Chief Justice when one steps down. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Roberts is too compromised personally. I know he won't step down willfully, but be nice if he would step down and be replaced. But anyway, now here's the what I was looking for. AstraZeneca finally admits in court documents its COVID-19 vaccine can cause rare side effects. They have denied, but finally, when you're under oath of penalty of perjury, people tend to tell more truth. AstraZeneca has admitted for the first time in a recent court document filing that COVID-19 vaccine can cause rare side effects. The pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca admitted in court documents as part of a class action lawsuit filed against them that its COVID-19 vaccine can cause thrombosis with thrombotic, and I can't pronounce it, syndrome, or it's called TTS for short. TTS is a rare medical condition when a person suffers from blood clots together with low platelet counts. What's being advocated here, this is one of many that say people that have taken, especially if you took the 2 shots and the 3 boosters, there's 3 main physical ailments that's crossing the country. One is cardiac. There's a lot more folks dying or having cardiac issues. And the other is blood clotting. And there's several folks that do the autopsies, after people have died, and they pull out these long links where blood literally just gelled up into long snake-like clots in the veins, which of course cause either stroke or cardiac arrest. And this is part of that lawsuit, the TTS. The other thing seems to be lung issues. So those are 3 primary things that you're seeing in some of these medical cases that are coming to the courts: cardiac, blood clotting, and lung issues. If you took all the shots and the boosters and you're experiencing health concerns, there are legal teams that you can join lawsuits if you choose that. And there's a patriotdoctorsgroup.com. You can go and get a lot of more information. But maybe I can bring that up in a future broadcast. Judge Joe Brown goes off on Barack Obama. He calls him a low-down, scummy, and I won't say the B word, and a piece of urban trailer park trash. If you guys remember, Judge Joe Brown used to have one of the reality judgeship shows. If you go watch some of his podcasts, he tells you the truth behind the Soetoro wealth who adopted Barry Soetoro. Barry Soetoro, you know him as Barack Hussein Obama, but he was born in Kenya. His mom married into Soetoro family, so he was adopted by Mr. Soetoro, one of the wealthiest families on the globe. Evidently, Barry Soetoro, who you know is Barack Hussein Obama, when they lived in Hawaii, lived a very wealthy childhood and went to a lot of elite schools. When he was at Columbia University, you can go look. Now, Judge Joe Brown brings this out that his records, he was enrolled as Barry Soetoro, and he was enlisted there from Kenya, that his birthplace. For some reason, that has been a point of contention for folks, and it's because, if that fact ever really got out there, that meant he was an illegitimate president. And anyone he appointed to a judgeship or any major decision he made could be made null and invalid. And the 2 Supreme Court justices he appointed when he was president could be removed from the bench. So it's going to be interesting to see. Judge Brown brings up a lot of stuff about the Bidens and the Obamas in these documentaries. If you want to go and check out the Judge Joe Brown podcast, he seems to have a lot of facts and have a lot of information. He also produces a picture that has, when Barack was young, Barry Soetoro in a golf cart, and you have the Bushes and the Clintons. They're all there at an outing. Soetoros, the Clintons, and the Bushes, meaning it's a uniparty, friends. There's a lot of these folks. It's kind of like live wrestling, They, for the camera, they pretend to hate each other, but when the cameras go off, they're nothing but a uniparty. A lot of them up at the upper level, and I think nobody's shocked or surprised at that. Several Charlotte police officers were wounded. One U.S. Marshal is dead, and there's still an active shooting. This just dropped. Let me pull this up. I think I saw that on the NBC News. But several Charlotte officers wounded, one U.S. Marshal dead, and is still active shooting. This is in Charlotte, North Carolina. So there is a gun battle going on right now. And according to authorities, the shooting unfolded along Galway Drive as the U.S. Marshal Task Force was serving a search warrant. Interesting. So the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, which is comprised of several agencies in the Charlotte area, was attempting to serve a warrant in the 5,000 block of Galway Drive when shots were fired. This is still an active scene. More to come from CMP Public Affairs. Wow. So this is happening now as we speak. You might want to check some of your local news or other news for this. But wow, tons of police cars responding to that. Let's keep them in our prayers, especially the U.S. Marshal that was killed. The interesting thing is it's only U.S. Marshals that can arrest a sitting congressman or senator. Do you know that? When they're in session, the FBI, the only ones that can arrest a sitting congressman or senator in D.C. is a U.S. Marshal. They've got special protections while they're in the District of Columbia and while they're in session. So sometimes they have suspended sessions. Some wonder if they're playing games. I don't know. But when they're out of session and they go back to their states, they can be incarcerated. I don't know if you knew that. Just the U.S. Marshals, our friend. We need to keep them in our prayers because they probably have got the strongest long of the arm. We think it's the FBI, but really U.S. Marshals, in my opinion, are more powerful than the FBI. That's why I would not have a problem if they disbanded the FBI one day and just went back to U.S. Marshal Service and took all the good agents, let them be U.S. Marshals, and find a way to clean up the system. But that's probably pie in the sky. I doubt we're going to see that anytime soon. And let's see, one more quick time. I'll do a refresh. Anything new happening? So, a lot of conspiracy. I'm not going to report on some of this because some of this is opinion that you don't want to know for sure. Hunter Biden launches a new lawsuit against Fox News, a defamation lawsuit for airing revenge porn. He is now he's named Hannity, Bartiromo, I can't always say her name, and Waters. They're told to preserve their documents, and that Hunter Biden is coming after them with a lawsuit. Now that's going to be interesting. If Hunter Biden, I guess his dad's got 5 months left. He better move quick because if Donald Trump becomes president, I would say the DOJ would definitely make a change of priorities, and we'd see what happens there. Well, this is the Macil Duncan Show, and I appreciate you guys listening. And those of you on Facebook, I do want to let you know, some of you have messaged me that you were not able to catch some of the clips I played. We just installed some new computers over the weekend, and we had a little bit of feedback. So Dave, our engineer, is going to come in and try to fix that, and that should be fixed soon. But I appreciate you guys listening, and we appreciate all you're doing to support the show. Don't forget my book, Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith. And if you could think about it, if you'll buy a copy, you can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Books A Million, Lifeway Books, Thrifty Books, wherever you get your online material. Move Your Mountains by Macil Duncan. I appreciate it if you consider my book. And don't forget, we're on each and every day, Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. And we've just been picked up again by 96.9 FM radio here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's now Destiny Media. Nuga Radio bit the dust, and we've got a new, if you want to call it, owner, the actual original owner. And we're pretty excited about being with Destiny Media and all that's happening there. So as we get ready to wrap up the show, a couple other things I'd like to throw at you is don't forget, if you're looking for advertisement, we'd love to have you be a part of the 96.9 FM. Tell your friends. And let's keep the country in our prayers, because I think in a short amount of time, it's going to get uglier. I really believe. The college campuses, all the things we're seeing now, I think this is baby steps. My prayer is it will. I'll be back tomorrow.